Notification.
Especially the phones as it goes through this shit.
Yeah, that it is.
Anyway. G'day everybody, welcome to Sleepovers at the House of Mario. I'm your host Drew Agnew, and today we've got a very special guest. I'm sure a lot of you remember him from, well, not that long ago, but the good old days.
Good old days.
It's Bryce Dewit. How you going, Bryce?
Me. Hello. Hello, how are you, buddy?
Great, man. It's great to have you back.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Does it feel weird being here again, or?
Oh, no, never feels weird being here, dude. Never feels weird being here. What do you think? I'd be uncomfortable or something because I haven't been in front of it. I've been in front of a microphone. I just haven't been in front of this microphone.
True.
Yeah, I've been around. Just a lot quieter than I usually have been. I think. Trying to fucking keep away from socials and stuff a bit.
Yeah.
Deleted my Twitter account. Stuff like that.
No, it's probably a smart idea. I've recently just got off Twitter as well.
Yeah.
Well, not got off of it, but I'm going to be on it a lot less because the app isn't on my phone and
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about
that
it earlier. And like, I still have the things on my phone, but I just don't. I try not to pay attention to them anymore. Not to, alienate anybody or anything. It just is what it is. I think after leaving the show and realizing that I could sort of free myself from socials a bit, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do that for a while and work on myself. So that's what I've been doing.
yeah. I reckon if my hobby wasn't like podcasting and YouTube,
Yeah.
I never have any inkling whatsoever to be like, oh, I should post on Instagram or I should post on Facebook or I'm just I very much actually couldn't care. And I think that's mostly a good thing because I always hear about people saying like, oh, Twitter, it's a bloody shit show or whatever. It's like, just don't go on it. If you really think that, please just work out something in your life not to do that.
I know, but like in these hobbies that we have in content creation, like it's a bit hard because social media is such a big portion. Like I still have a Twitter account in which I post streaming updates, but like I don't post on there rarely either. So it's sort of like I've still got a Twitter account. I just don't use that Twitter account very often unless it's like, oh, hey, look, I've got a special event going on, and then I try to push things really hard. But then like Discord as well, I don't pay half as much attention to Discord anymore, despite having like several hundred servers.
Jesus Christ.
Really? Not literally several hundred, but I'm thinking somewhere in the realms of like 50 plus.
Okay.
Right.
Just exaggerate it a little bit. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. But like, and I've got like I've got like projects running in the background, and I'm still doing streaming and stuff. So it's sort of like I have those things, but I'm not attentive to them. Now, if I was more attentive to them, I'd probably be getting a little bit further than what I am right now. But I don't care enough to deal with everything else that comes with social media anymore. I think I'm just getting old.
Yeah.
I think I'm just getting old.
Well, we get 30 in a month's time, so
Yeah, it's not that long.
a bit
now.
over, yeah. So that's probably why. Oh, well, look, I'm almost 30, so social media. Look, I actually don't understand it now. I've forgotten about it. I'm too old.
Well, Jade's like, what do you want to do for your 30th birthday? I'm like, I don't fucking know.
Sit on Twitter all day.
She's like, what do you want to do for your birthday? I'm like, I have no idea. And she's just like, oh, come on, you got to do something. It's your 30th birthday. You're not going to have another decade birthday and like for another 10 years after that. And I'm just like,
True. That's how it works. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I'm like, but like every other year for the last like 8 years, I mean, like my daughter's birthday is the day before mine. So I just don't think about my birthday anymore. I'm just like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. You should do something. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what that something is because I don't think about it anymore. And like, I've got a few people that I still talk to, and like interact with in real life. But most of our friends have moved on, so I'm not like expecting, to invite like a whole gaggle of people to come and celebrate my birthday. It'd be like, oh yeah, like go out for dinner. Might invite Drew, maybe Barry, something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Drew,
like
Barry, Gaza.
It's but like that's what I mean. It's just like my pool is very small, and like I've gained a few since like IRL people since starting Twitch actually, funnily enough. But post that, my social interactions are pretty low, so I don't know what the fuck to do for my birthday. It's like, oh well, you should do something. It's like, what am I gonna do? It's like, oh, you could have dinner with your family and something like that. I'm just like.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
I guess yeah, but you could also just save the money and not worry about my birthday. I'm not that fussed about it anymore.
Yeah, I think I feel the same way. Obviously, for my 29th birthday last month.
Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah, my partner set up a surprise birthday party. I had no idea about it, and I had friends from the city, 4 hours come, and Bryce was there, and a bunch of people. But I was like, holy shit, people made the effort there. It was really, really nice, actually. Yeah, it was very lovely. So I don't know if I sort of had a big sort of birthday in some ways. I don't know if I need a big 30th now. But
listen to anybody listening. All right, this is the funniest shit. It really was. It was funny as anything because like we'd all plan this. It'd be going on for like months, right? Chantel sort of like got things together, and then she's like, hey, can you get in contact with Josh? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then we sort of like juggled this around a little bit. I'm like, all right, here's where we're at. And we eventually got down to the point. It's like, all right, it's on this date. Chantel already had it planned like a month beforehand. It's like this date, this time, sweet, no worries. And then we all sort of get there. Like I rock up first, and then Dan of Cracky Furphy's fame is there.
Big star.
He's there. He's like, oh yeah, we're the first ones here, and I'm there with my family. I'm like, how are you, Dan? It's been a long time, mate. Yeah, whatever. And then it's just like, and I look over at the bar, and Josh Nintendo is over at the bar. He's like, Bryce. I'm like, oh no, we're not the first ones here. Dan, Josh, Dan. Here you go. Like, nice. And then we all like sort of just had a chatter and had a beer or whatever, sat in the room and got and waiting for people to pile in. And then like everybody's pretty much in, and I think it was Dan was like, should we tell Chantel to take the long way or something just to make sure everybody's here? I'm like, nah, everybody will be here by the time he gets there. And so we're all sitting there, whatever, and I'm sort of just like, everybody's sort of chatting, and I like winded down for a second. I'm just like checking on the kids, whatever, and then like I like look over at the door, and Drew walks through the door, loaded to the nines with like stuff for Lucas, like his wheel around car and stuff like that.
Yeah, I had the Thomas Tank Engine ride-on toy, and I can't remember what else I had, but yeah, just I was full of baby toys because I was just expecting like an hour sit down.
Yes.
To like, all right, I was there to see mum, dad, and my grandma.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, get there at 6. We left by 7. Lucas would be in bed by 7:30. Just dad life.
Yeah, and then he gets his own little bit of personal time. Well, it didn't happen that way.
No.
Because he walks through the door and he looks over in my general direction, and nobody else has noticed he's gone through the door yet. I just like fling my arms up in the air. I'm like, surprise.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, I said, I don't know if you caught it, but I said surprise.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, because you were the first person I like.
I was the first person to notice. I'm like, surprise.
Yeah, and I'm like looking around. I'm like, oh shit.
And everybody else is like, oh, buddy.
Yeah, I'm just like looking around. I'm like, I see like my family, like, oh, yeah, that's who I came this evening. I saw Bryce. Oh, Bryce. And I saw like Josh from Pennsylvania. I'm like, oh shit. Like, he's come from Adelaide.
Uh-huh.
And I see some other Adelaide friends. I'm like, oh shit.
They're literally like
just,
everywhere.
Just piecing it together. And I see like, yeah.
Oh, it's a surprise party.
Yeah, Tom McRobert. I'm like, oh shit. And he's there with his like brand new baby as well.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, cross mighty. Everyone's here.
Yeah.
Super Smash Brothers type of event. Like, oh shit.
So I was talking to Tom's dad yesterday. I'm like, yeah, I only saw him recently. I've met your new grandchild. He was like, oh yeah, I haven't seen him for a little bit. I said, you probably saw him around the same time I saw him. So yeah, It was good.
Yeah, that's very nice. No, it was a lovely party. It's very nice.
It was, yeah. It was good just to have dinner and have like a bunch of people. And then, ran my family home, come back up, and we had a few more beers and a few more drinks, and it was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got tired very quick. I was very much in dad mode, so a few pale ales in, I'm bloody tired. I wasn't going into this expecting party mode.
Yeah.
Because I remember Dan, he said like, oh, what are we doing after? I'm like, oh, Christ, I was ready for bed. Probably 9 o'clock, but all right.
Yeah.
3 o'clock in the morning it is.
Yeah. You got to get a bit more in you while you got the chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't do it often, so.
No, we don't. And we really should. At least something.
We need to, yeah. Look.
We should at least get on Discord at the bare minimum.
We need to, I mean, we're close enough around the corner. We can just sort something out, I'm sure. But yeah, it's just more finding the right day for it, which, I mean, is difficult because like your weekends are probably more or less your more free time than what mine are.
Yeah, there they are. Yeah.
And that makes things a little bit harder. Like, for example, like it's like, oh, you want to do something this weekend? It's like, oh, sorry, Drew, I've got to go to work at 5 p.m. Probably won't be done till 3 in the morning. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Well, hence why the podcast was hard to do together.
Oh, of course, yeah. Because that unfortunately, like that's the way life took its turn. Like when we both moved into parenting mode, like that in itself brings its restrictions. And like it was already sort of difficult for me juggling the 2 kids I had. To sort of make every week, especially since because me and my partner work opposing shifts, like we share the responsibility of everything, half and half. So even in those times where like it would seem that I would have a bit of time, squeezing in the podcast would be like, all right, get the kids to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock, rush over to Drew's, finish the podcast within an hour and a half, get back home. And working under those restrictions was very tough as it was, and it felt like cutting it short sometimes, which was not great.
Yeah, it's not the best feeling, but
no,
you do what you can do. But yeah, no, I at the time I especially I understood. I'm like, I could only imagine how hard it would be with 2 kids and split shifts and all of that to manage. Now, like having my own kid, I'm like, I understand a little bit better. Especially,
it takes it takes a crazy amount of precedence. Like the thing is like I don't think it's out of the cards to like continue on and do it again one day. I don't think that's like something that'll never happen. But by then, like I'd want to have like stuff for my own setup and stuff like that. So if we ever wanted to do anything together, we could just go where it was necessary. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Do
you know what I mean?
Go to your place even.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, because with the one setup we have, like you've got to fucking like, for those of you watching the video, you can't even fucking see it, but like the actual desk setup and stuff like this,
it's in the mirror.
It's in the mirror, actually. Yes, holy shit. But no, it's actually impressive. It's really nice. It's like a really good tiny little recording studio with the key lights and stuff like that as well. And then obviously like a nice sensual microphone.
Oh god,
how did that feel in the ear?
Tingled my hairs on my feet actually.
And the Rodecaster and stuff like that. But this is all stuff that like I do eventually want to have myself again anyway. Because at the moment I'm still only working with the USB microphone, but like
yeah, be good for your streaming and stuff anyway.
Well, that's what I mean, yeah. But like I've got to fix up my computer and stuff like that, and obviously the economy is hard enough as it is at the moment, so computer takes priority. But after that, after the computer's completely done, then I intend to sort of have more of this stuff sort of come back into the forward of like, all right, this is what needs to be done next. This is what needs to be done next. Because I would love one of these.
Yeah, they got a second version out there too.
Yes, they do. Yeah. And I've heard some pretty good reports through friends who actually have it. Nice. And they said that it's pretty damn good. So yeah, no problems with that whatsoever. But I definitely it could happen again one day. It's just been real tough the last few years, I think.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about it. As far as us podcasting again, obviously I'd love to do it.
Of course,
because it just gives us a schedule to at least try and stick to where we can talk to each other. Yeah. But we're looking to try and get Crackin' Furfies going again. Whether we do it monthly, you can be a part of that if you like.
Yeah, of course.
Or we can do like just a standard gaming podcast without the news type of thing. Just really sort of embrace just the have fun, muck around aspect of it.
Yeah, shoot the shit.
Yeah,
like that. That's the thing.
Like what we're doing now.
Well, exactly. Yeah. When I get back into it, like the intent would be to more or less be a shoot the shit than anything else. It's like the thing is,
Bros love shooting shit. Shotgun blast, bang into the shit.
Together, we had covered Nintendo for shit. For 5 years, maybe.
Yeah, about then. Yeah,
5 years. Yeah. We covered Nintendo 5 years together, and like, I love Nintendo, but another part of the drawback to me eventually, like taking a leave from the show, apart from just my schedule or like trying to make things line up, was that I was having a tough time. If most people remember when like you went on your honeymoon and I was doing episodes, like sort of getting that in the works, and then working with lovely guests who
lovely guests,
and they came on. We did like a sideshow called Conceptors, which was real fun. Actually, it was a lot of fun, but unfortunately, like, in the first thing that I put out like a whole episode that was just like a 15-minute sketch, maybe a little bit less. Yeah. And me talking afterwards. And it was me sort of coming to terms with myself about how I was fucking annoyed with the game industry at the current time. And specifically Nintendo. Nintendo felt very alien to me at the time because like we'd had such a good run with the Switch for a while. And we've been handed a lot of disappointments in the last few years. Like Strikers is one of the biggest things. That game is really good at a core value level, but awful in the post. And then like Scarlet and Violet having so much technical issues to the point where like, you know, it blows your mind how baffling like the stuff like that. But like those are just two examples of many examples why like I'd burnt out.
They were synths as well.
Exactly, they were synths.
Yeah.
And like just looking back on it, I'm just like, fuck, if I was still on the podcast, I would be the biggest negative Nancy right now. And it's not the greatest of looks. Like I don't want to come on the podcast and sound like a fucking grumpy little shit every week.
No. Like, yeah, obviously there's that balance between like, look, I got to tell it how I say it.
Of course.
And you're not going to be like, oh, look, you know, who cares? Graphics are nothing. It's just about the gameplay, which, you know.
While we were recording, I was definitely the most critical of these types of things. And I was definitely like one of those pushy voices that just like really wanted to like hammer it in and just be like.
Yeah. I feel like in some ways, maybe like one of your biggest downfalls is just like, if you don't like something, just don't focus on it and focus on something you like.
But the problem is like that, but then that's Nintendo as a whole. Like
that's right. Well,
and that was harsh
and
because I love Nintendo.
Yeah. Well, there's even like when it comes to Pokemon, for example, when I think about Pokemon Violet and Scarlet and Violet, that sounded weird to say.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. You know, I'm like, it baffles me and it makes me grumpy thinking about it. So I just think about the aspects of Pokemon which I really enjoy, which is like the older games and maybe the anime and all that. I think about the stuff that I like, and I was like, well, you know, if that's not for me, I'll just ignore that,
which is
for
grand.
the time being. And
but like in terms of the way we were running the podcast, we were a news and up to date eccentric podcast. You know what I mean? So we were talking about the news each week or whatever if it was necessary and stuff like that. So it'd be like. It'd hammer in. It'd be like, Scarlet and Violet got an update this week. It's like, hooray! What did Scarlet and Violet get in an update? It's like, oh, it says performance fixes, but it says nothing about like save data being deleted. Like, come on.
Yeah, I don't think I'll put that in the patch notes. But like, hey, look, we really fucked up. So
yeah, exactly. So and that's that. And like when you're a news centric podcast and these things come up, like you kind of like, you know, you feel obligated to talk about it because it is kind of important to the ecosystem of what the console was.
Yeah, you want to let the people know, like, you know, what's going on and your thoughts on it. That's the...
Well, not even just that, but like it's the type of thing. It's like you get a lot of people that digest their news from podcasts.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't want to be that type of person that's like, I'm just going to skip over the Pokemon news. It could be really important Pokemon news. Like, for example, when save files were getting deleted in Scarlet and Violet recently, it's like you don't want to not talk about that because if people are digesting the news from you, you know, you kind of want to be like, hey, guys, don't play Scarlet and Violet at the moment if you want your save data deleted. Simple as that. Just don't. Like, you don't want to be like, all right, yeah, guys, everything's happy and sunny with Scarlet and Violet, because it wasn't. Like, and, you know, and like turning around again for some time, you just... You know, it is what it is. This has turned into a really weird fucking like it's 20 minutes in and it has literally just become like a trip down memory lane. But
that's all right. Just getting off the negative stuff. I would like to you know, start transitioning into what we're going to be talking about, but just through this, like, you know, you're more than welcome to come and shoot the shit on, you know, the sleepovers aspect of the House of Mario.
Yeah, I know.
And if you'd like to do Kraken Furfies or anything else going forward, let's have a chat about that. Let's work it out. Yeah,
there will always be opportunities for projects in the future as well. But it has been quite the transition for the House of Mario. Like, this show is our baby. We started it together, and like it will always be our baby. But as it's transitioned, obviously it's become its own little beast on its own. You're doing a very good job managing it. And obviously, even though life is a little bit different now than when we started it, like, you know, the show has adapted and become what it needs to. And yeah, that's all that really matters. The show's not dead. It could have just flopped and died like wherever it was, but you didn't let that happen. You're a good boy.
Oh, thanks, man.
I left the nest. It's just like, I'm not feeding the child anymore. You feed it.
Oh, fuck. I better keep spoon feeding it then. Jesus Christ.
But yeah. And I mean, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, it's good to be here. Do something every now and then.
Absolutely.
Oh, no.
Yeah. getting a phone call from Mum. Mum's gonna have to wait, mate.
Poor
Or maybe I should put it on the podcast. Have I got the Bluetooth hooked up? I do actually. Let's talk to Mum.
Yep.
Oh.
Nope, she's gone.
Yeah, no, I'd left it too long. If she rings back,
We'll talk to Karen.
we'll bring on Mum.
Karen.
Now, look, after the show, I've actually got to go out to work. So she's probably like, "Hey, what time are you coming out? Can you pick up the post and that when you come here too?"
Probably.
That's not a very good impression of my mum, but
It's not.
That's what I got. That's any woman I'll probably try to impersonate. Actually, I don't have the range to really go into like different voices in the female spectrum.
You just need to practice. Is what it is.
Yeah, I think that is too. I need a course.
Voice training is kind of a weird thing like that. It's just like anybody has the potential to pull off a lot of things. It's just practice like anything else. You know what I mean? Like you can fucking do an Elmo voice, mate. I'm pretty sure you got the capacity.
That's true. Let's try and do it now.
Everybody is Elmo.
Yeah, exactly. See? Like you're telling me you don't have the capacity to do a girl's voice. I'm pretty sure you do. You just need to train yourself to do it.
Just like a normal girl's voice, like that's like over the top Elmo, and you got like an opera singer like oh yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's eccentric as well. It's like different ends of the spectrum.
Of course,
But
yeah.
like, how do you just do a normal voice? It was like, yeah, no, that's the range I need to work out for myself.
But that's what I mean. Is like that's your extremes. So it's just like you just gotta find how to train your muscles to hit the mediums of those extremes. That's how it works.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I remember doing that for choir. That was like
You did choir?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I remember I wanted to do choir, but
Did it with your old mate Andrew Fuster.
my old mate.
Your old mate Andrew Fuster, your old soccer mate.
Yeah, no, he's a good bloke.
He is a good bloke. He was my kid's teacher.
Popped out his knees that many times playing soccer, but
It's funny because he was my teacher back in primary school.
I was so jealous of because I remember your class was right next to ours in primary school,
Yeah.
grade 4.
Yeah, that's it.
And we had like a real grumpy old lady, and we're like, just did whatever. And then the whole year was like Harry Potter themed. They're outside playing Quidditch, and they've got like the house teams for each table and stuff. I'm like, what the hell? I want to be in that class.
It's much less controversial back then than it is now, obviously. But
This was like 15 years ago.
yeah,
A lifetime ago for us.
but it's funny because like last year he taught one of my kids. So
Oh really? Yeah.
yeah, he did. He was one of because the class was split between two teachers because they both had other schedules or whatever. So he was teaching half of it, and then another person was teaching another. And so he would be like, Evie DeWitt. It's like, yeah, it's just like I used to teach your dad. It's like, yeah. And then I rock up to school. I'm like, how old do you feel? and he's just like, shut up. Like,
You could imagine for teachers though when you're getting kids from the students you taught. It's like, my God, how long have I been doing this?
crazy. It's like I was 9 or 10 when I was in his class. Do you know what I mean? It's like I was 9 or 10, and now like my kid is like the age of what he was teaching me at, and I'm like 30. So I'm just like, how do you feel, mate? It's just like, yeah, I'm getting on. But yeah,
That's crazy because like most jobs, you don't have that perspective.
no,
And I know I certainly have a different perspective of kids and how they make time feel like it's just zooming by.
yeah,
Because like when you're going through your 20s, you're like, hey, look, I'm getting older, but you're not thinking about it. Then you have a kid and it's grown. See how much it's grown up within a year, in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and like, oh, shit, where's the time going? And imagine for like when that's your job and you've got 30 of them in the same room as you and you're responsible for each one. And then, of course, when you get to the point when he's looking at you like you're a fully grown man,
Yeah.
facial hair, like you got 2 kids, like holy shit, he's probably just thinking to himself like, Christ,
yeah. What the fuck
yeah.
happened?
And that's timed by hundreds of people
Mm.
coming to him. Hey, you remember me? He's like, fuck yes, I remember you. Yes, you were so small.
Yeah, not anymore.
You were so small.
That's like I caught I caught like Mr. Hamilton. I've caught him a few times in the wild.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He was a good bloke, Mr. Hamilton. Big bloke, big
good teacher,
warm
too.
heart. I didn't have that. Fuck, that was another teacher where like they were right next to us, and I'm like looking across the classroom, so jealous.
Yeah,
Because he was.
because you had skier, didn't you? Or was it not skier at the time?
No, it was Miss McIntyre.
McIntyre.
It was her first year, and I still remember it plain as day when it was, first day of the year. She would sit us down. It's like, all right, I'm just out of university. I'm actually not that much older than you guys, so I know all of your tricks. Yeah, and I remember just like thinking to myself, like, the fuck are my tricks? I don't have any tricks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I might be a shithead. Like, I might get up to no good, but I don't have like a little trick
No.
that I'm trying to pull over on adults to get my own way. I'm like, I don't know. I probably just muck around when I'm not meant to and stuff like that. I don't know if that's a trick.
No. See, and that was the thing. It's like with Hamilton, he was great because like when he was happy and he was good, it was awesome. But if you were being a shithead, by God, he let you know. And like I'd seen him a few times. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like having a kid and stuff. He's like, oh wow, that's great and stuff like that. And then I've seen him like a few times since then. So that was the last time I actually spoke to him was like probably about 7 years ago. And then like coming into my I'm coming to near 30, but every now and then like I'm up in like in Gambia, right? And I'm like,
well, we've got Mum ringing back. Should we answer it now?
Yeah, you better answer.
Here we go. Oh, here we go. Oh, it's not coming through. Hello, Mum. You're on the House of Mario. How you going?
Oh, are you doing a podcast?
Yeah, we're doing the podcast now. You're being recorded on the show, actually. I thought I'd better answer it to see what you're after today.
Hello, Carony.
Oh, right. No, that's all right. We're just out in the paddock trying to
All right.
round some sheep up. That's all right.
So
When you're finished, can you come out?
yeah, that's no worries. I'll be out about lunchtime.
All right, no worries. All right, leave you to it.
All right.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.
See ya.
I love how her name is Karen Angu. It's Karen, Mum Kareny Angu. What the fuck happened there? They're just like, Mum, I need to get your number.
No,
This is a fart.
No, I put it in just Kareny.
Mm.
No, Mum Kareny Agnew. That's what I put it in as.
It says Angu though.
Yeah.
I couldn't even spell your own last name. Shit.
Look. It takes a while to remember these things.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to spell a 5-letter name.
No. What's my given name? What's my family name? Don't know.
Rude.
Yeah, that's
R-E-W-D.
So that was a nice little catch up, Bryce. But I guess we better get into the meat of the show, which we're going to talk about Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Spoiler filled. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, no, it's been a game that's been out it's already been a couple of months, which is a little bit ridiculous. I don't know how it's been that long already, but time flies, like we've been saying.
Feels like forever we were waiting for the goddamn thing, let alone, and now it's been like months since it released.
Yeah. Yeah, time goes quicker, especially now that Zelda's out.
So old.
Yeah. What, the game is, or you are?
Me.
So old.
Just like listening to all these, like just listening to how all this time just goes.
I really try to be cognizant of people who are older than us.
Of course.
Because it sounds like you could imagine people would be like so keen to go back to 29. I imagine when I'm 40, I'm like, what the fuck was I on about? When I'm 50, I will be saying the same when I was 40.
Oh, absolutely.
So
yeah.
Put it in perspective, mate. You're still in your 20s. You're in your prime, mate. This is
No, but that's what people keep saying.
to
And
go.
I'm like, but that's the thing. It's like I'm in that age gap where I'm like, yeah, I understand that, but at the same time, like I'm starting to feel my age creeping up, if that makes sense. So like I still get it. Obviously I'm still young, but I'm like, God damn. Holy shit. You know, it's something.
Bryce is having a crisis here, so just bear with him.
Tears of the Kingdom's already 2 months old.
Oh my gosh,
Jesus
my baby!
Christ.
It's already grown up. It's got pubes on its forehead already. Yeah, I don't know. Don't want to know. Anyway, so Tears of the Kingdom, Bryce.
Yeah.
Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Was it a fun game to play in your spare time?
Yes. I'd like to think so, because like the first week and I shit you not, the only thing I changed in my entire schedule for the first week was that I took the day off for Tears of the Kingdom's release. I bought it digitally so I could play it the second it came out. And for the full week up until the following Friday, I had played 100 hours. And keep in mind, nothing else in my schedule changed. So except for my sleep, that was like the only thing. I still went to work. I still did the adult thing, took the kids to school, whatever have you, and like I still cooked and cleaned and whatever.
I like how you just got to like just reiterate, but my life did not fall apart.
My life did not fall apart.
I just
for
did not
Disney
sleep.
Kingdom. I just did not sleep.
Yeah, because when Bryce was saying at the end of the week that he put like 100 hours in, I'm like, what the fuck? Because I put about 50 in, and that was a pretty good effort, really.
Every spare waking moment I had, I was playing Tears of the
Yeah,
Kingdom.
because I did the quick math. I'm like, that's like 12 hours a day, man. Like, what the fuck?
It was like
If not more.
12 to 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I was like sleeping 3 hours a night.
Mm.
It was insane. It's like I was so very keen for this, but like even just like thinking back to when we were recording for like E3, like when it was first announced and stuff like that. Like I've been salivating waiting for this game to come out for years, and it was just like there's no way that I'm not going to spend that time just like hounding at it. And going nuts. Now, I still haven't finished everything. I still haven't because I took an extended break. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that was a big week. But I intend to go back and like finish the shrines and stuff like that. I did all the light routes and like, you know, some of the other little stuff, but I haven't quite gotten around to all the shrines and stuff, which is my intent to get done next, hopefully very soon. But my God, just the first week of that game was some of the craziest, like just everybody discovering everything was just nuts.
Yeah, no, it was so much fun, and that was I guess you know, back to our conversation with Twitter. That was actually a really nice time to be on social media, just seeing everybody just really enjoy the game, and developers just baffled by how they got some of the systems working in the game with the physics and the fact that the game really wasn't broken apart from some like duplication and glitches and that. But I think like the speedrunning community and stuff actually really appreciated those bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't like a bad thing. It wasn't like crashing the game or anything, you know, detrimental to that aspect. But you know, it was really nice to just be online, and I'm happy we're having this conversation like 2 months afterwards because we're out of the hype. It's not like it's just come out and we're like super excited about it. No, we're sort of like, you know, we've come down from the hype and we can sort of really think about like what our sort of thoughts on the game are. And honestly, my thoughts haven't changed. Like, this is one of the best games I've ever played, and it's easily like a top 3 favorite game, if not one of my favorite games ever. Like, it's insane how good it is. And a lot of people are sort of poo-pooing Breath of the Wild after like how big an improvement this game is. I don't really agree with that. I think Breath of the Wild is still amazing, and I can easily still go back to it. You play it differently, but you just do not have that flexibility and verticality. Yeah. And that makes this game even more fun. But yeah, this was just like just an amazing game from like the story perspective, especially. That's what drew me, and I loved the lore and everything going into it. Mm-hmm. How the game sort of kicks you off straight away, and from that moment, like when it drops you and you can put your thumbs on the sticks, and I just wanted to get to the next cutscene. I'm like, oh my God, like that was awesome. Yeah. You know, Zelda going back in time. I'm like, all right, what happened to her? Then I just really wanted to see Ganondorf, like what he's up to, the shit he's causing havoc with, and in between then you're just like picking up mushrooms and shit, just doing whatever.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is like going back on like the Breath of the Wild poo-pooing thing. I think like this game would like it's the same as Majora's Mask. This game is not possible without its predecessor. Do you know what I mean? And Breath of the Wild, I understand, to a lot of people feels empty and stuff like that at times, and there is genuine complaints about that, which I definitely get. But I also think like it was, and this is the problem with dual generation releases, because like you know, Twilight Princess sort of had like sort of a problem in its own right, for example, in the sense that like the GameCube version was largely ignored, and everybody picked up the Wii version and stuff like that. The Wii version was probably better by every account, and the GameCube version was marred pretty heavily, for example, by not having some of the accessibility things like being able to aim your claw shots and stuff. And it's the same with Breath of the Wild as well. It's like technically they had to try and make that game work in 2 very different prospects, like huge different prospects. So trying to make everything work and then have that game still functioning at a reasonable level probably dragged down like some of the aspects of it. Like obviously the story was not as broad as what Tears of the Kingdom was, or anything like that. So I do agree. But I also think a lot of people need to look at it from, it was still a cross-generation thing that sort of had its issues. But it was a amazing base for what we would get in Tears of the Kingdom, because the world of Hyrule actually has not changed that much. But what was added to it was perfected on by the fact that they only had to work with one unit now. They obviously didn't have to go back and make sure that things were working on Wii U and also working on Switch, and vice versa. So it basically allowed them to just like slam the accelerator, and like we all got the sky. We all knew the sky was coming. If you're an unfortunate person like me, and saw a few of the leaks and stuff, you got spoiled some things
Heartbreaking.
early.
We'll get into that. Yeah,
we will get into that. But like then hitting the underground, it's just like, what the fuck? This isn't 2 times the map. This is 3 times the map.
Yeah.
What?
Do you remember years ago when we were covering the game on the podcast and we heard about the underground? Like it all turned out to be real. Like that was sort of knowledge out there for ages. Like, oh look, you're going to be like exploring catacombs, or that's what it said at the time. Like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And like it turned out to be true, which is pretty cool.
And that was a prediction I made. I'm like, I am predicting that there will be a full underground map. I was like, and it's probably going to be about the size of Hyrule. That is something I said, and it turned out to be true. And I was like, holy shit, I was right. And I was fascinated with it. Like that was my first, I'm like, I want to jump into that pit. I want to jump into that pit so bad. So after getting my paraglider and stuff like that, I was like, all right, I'm straight in there. And like, that was the first thing I did, was map out that entire place. Cause it was just something fascinating, right? It was creepy. And like, I didn't want to be down there, but I also wanted to see what was around. And it was just one of those things. And I think a lot of people felt that way about the underground as well. I think it nails those type of thematics or like ambiances and stuff like that really well. Like whether you're in the sky or whether you're on the ground or whether you're underground, I think like Tears of the Kingdom nails those what would usually be quiet moments in Breath of the Wild so well in Tears of the Kingdom that you don't even really think about it half as much anymore. You know? Yeah,
like the gameplay loop in this is just so masterfully done, because you're not really recognizing what's happening, but you're always being led to somewhere, or something's happening or whatever. It's not like traditionally you'd be like, oh, look, you know, you get a cutscene, you do this, you move on, you level, like, you know, you get experience. And then especially like in previous Zelda games where it was like, especially Skyward Sword, you could be like, all right, I can predict what's going to happen next, because the formula is just so repetitive. But it was getting ridiculous, and that obviously led to the swing that Breath of the Wild brought to the series. Was just like, people are like, come on, man, we want to explore, but I know what's coming next. We're going to get a boss battle. We're going to get a key. We're going to go to a dungeon. We're going to, you know, explore here. We're going to have to do the trial. We're going to have, like, it got kind of boring in some aspects, but this game just does what Breath of the Wild does, but just does it just so masterfully. And especially like even the different areas, they have like different sort of loops as well. You got a different loop underground to what you have on the surface to what you have in the sky. And like for me, the underground, it took time to warm up to it. Sounds like you just jumped in there and went, oh, sweet. I went down there. I'm like, fuck this. I went straight back up.
It was, dude, no, it was creepy. The thing is, it's like, all right, I did like the Robbie thing where he's like, oh, you're going to get the camera, and did all that bullshit. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to explore down here a bit more. I'm like, what the fuck is that? It was like a frox. And I'm like, what the fuck? Is that is that one of the new big enemies? Because that was like one of the things I definitely wasn't spoiled on, was like the enemy types and stuff. And I was just like, oh my God. I'm like, I want to go kill that thing. So I fought this thing for half an hour trying to figure it out, because I'm like, holy shit. And it was fun as hell. It was so fun to do. And then like, as I sort of got further on into the game, like frogs are nothing now, because you've figured out like their patterns and stuff like that. They fling you off of their backs, right? And it's just like, so they open their mouths, they're like, oh, I got to catch you. So you drop a bomb in their mouth, and then you just go straight back to smacking them around. They become nothing, like most enemies do in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. But yeah, and I think like that first encounter with the frogs just made me go, fuck, I want to see more. So, and I just, I sort of kept going. And like, what I found real interesting is that the underground didn't just become a place of like intrigue, but it also became a place of replayability to some extent. Because if you go down there, you can go back and like fight bosses of the dungeons and stuff once you've beaten them in their like respective dungeons. You just have to find like little arenas around the map in the underground, which was awesome. And I think like that's something that a lot of people beg for when it comes to the dungeons. They always want to go back and do the dungeon bosses, but there's never a replayability option for it unless whatever.
Because I think back to Twilight Princess, I'm like, I just want a boss rush mode.
Yes.
Like, I don't really want to play the 30-hour game again and like do the start and get the tunic and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But this game sort of does it, but that's integrated into the actual game in its own specific place, which is really interesting because
so seamless.
I remember when I beat a boss, like I was like, oh, thank God I beat it, type of thing. Like in the actual temple. Then I found it underground. Oh shit, fuck, it's here again. All right. Then like I knew how to beat it, and I beat it like a lot easier.
Yeah, and you get a little reward for it. And
Yeah,
like, yeah, that's nice.
It was just very, very satisfying, and more importantly, just fun.
It was, yeah. It was nuts. It was nuts being like, and just like running into, it was like Colgera, for example, because like I'm like, what are these little arenas around the place or whatever? And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I think the first one I come around was Muktarok again. I'm like, oh shit, like you could replay the bosses down here. But then I remember like running into like a place like by accident without really looking up into the sky or anything at one point. And I just like ran into like one of the Colgera arenas and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Underground, like holy shit. And I think like that's I think the underground adds so much. It's weird because like the sky is the selling, like they made that a huge like counterpoint to selling the game, but the underground is like full of so much intrigue. There's like Leviathan skeletons down there and stuff like that from like similar to like what there was in Breath of the Wild of like giant creatures that existed but are extinct now. Lore-wise, but like you're like, climbing on this giant skeleton, and then there's like horriblins like hanging off of it, throwing rocks at you and shit, and they do a lot of like little environment stuff down there that's just like, what happened down here? Like, is this like an old Hyrule or something? Like, what the fuck happened down here? And like, I there's still a lot to be I think it kind of just leaves it mostly to the imagination of the player, kind of like what they did with the Zonai in Breath of the Wild. Because like if you look down there, there's a lot of like actual structures. It's not just it's not just hey look, it's like a lump mound and there is some enemies on it.
It's not just like a cave that no one's been in. Yeah, there's been life down there before.
Yeah, that's right. And so it really makes you wonder. But obviously it became like Yiga homing grounds for some time. So I guess it's something.
Yeah, because I remember talking to you on a launch day on Discord. You're like, you just ran to like a Yiga clan member. I'm like, I haven't seen one of them yet. Where the fuck are they? Then like go underground. I was like, yeah, we live here now. I was like, oh, well, Bryce must have been down here at some point. Yep. Yeah.
The other thing was them showing up in the Great Plateau too. They ran that place over
with the Shrine of Resurrection. That's like their base.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is like, oh, interesting.
Yeah,
it was interesting going there. I was expecting a little bit more there, to be honest. But yeah,
I had a good laugh. Have you been around and collected all the Yiga pieces?
No, I haven't. No.
So
I got like most of them, but
spoiler alert! Oh, no spoiler cast. But one of them's at Hetenotech Lab because it's uninhabited.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
So at the Hetenotech Lab, like there's the Yiga clan are there. Now I'd already checked them out. I'm like, oh yeah, cool, whatever. But you've got like these pillars underground where you're just like, oh hey, look, you can like zip up.
Yeah.
Right. And there's one that leads directly into the Hetenotech Lab.
Yeah.
And then you like shoot up, and then the Yiga clan are like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's just like right there's like there's a few of them like that actually. I think there's one near the Great Plateau as well, which is I think similar. I definitely come into one of them like that where it's just like you come from the underground, you're like, oh, like you're literally right in front of them. You're just like
right into the thick of it. Yeah.
Could you imagine just like being one of those Yiga clan members and like someone just goes in front of you, like what the fuck? Because really, like when you're playing as Link, he's just Thanos of Hyrule. Really, he's just got all these
in a way
abilities. It's like you can't fucking stand up to that. And he's just fucking going through the floor, and he's got all these wicked abilities. Like, all right, I guess I'll try and hit you with a bow and arrow, but apart from that, I'm fucked.
I do want to talk about the abilities actually, because obviously it's quite a departure from what happened in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, massive.
I feel like I miss the Breath of the Wild abilities sometimes because like there was very like standard situations you would sort of put yourself in with them and stuff like that. But then I look back on it and I'm like, did I really use all of them all that much? It's like, no, probably not. But like, it did feel like something was missing there for a bit. But like the amount of creations that have come out of people using Fuse and Ultra Hand or what have you is absolutely insane.
Oh, just massive. I gotta be honest, I never missed the abilities from Breath of the Wild, and
I think it's the bombs mostly that got me.
yeah, I can see the bombs. That's the one thing. But apart from that, like a lot of the impressive stuff that was coming from TikTok and YouTube Shorts with Breath of the Wild was like, oh, look what I can do. You know,
Huge combat
yeah,
scenes
do
and
like
stuff.
you do like stasis thing. You jump on it and you go flying, for example. It's like whoa. It's like, but in the game, personally, I never did that. I never did all these impressive things. I was just throwing the bombs. I was just playing the game maybe how most normal people would play it.
Mm-hmm.
But with Tears of the Kingdom, I think they very much looked at what like the awesome professional players, whatever you want to call them, were doing on YouTube and stuff, and like, all right, how can we just give that tool set to everyone who's playing the game? And then that's what we were doing. We're like, can we go through the ceiling? Yes, you can go for every single ceiling. Like you're just using that for exploration. You can fly everywhere, obviously going up the sky towers and just being catapulted into the air, and you can just sort of set your path where you're gliding. So like a lot of these things you were seeing, but maybe not doing in Breath of the Wild, you're doing in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes.
Which is just incredible. And then obviously on top of that, then those really good players in Breath of the Wild were just doing even more amazing things in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, they were.
Whereas like one of my maybe light criticisms for the game is like, oh, it'd be cool if the combat was a little bit more involved and a little bit more cool. But then you see some players who are just like going nuts with the combat, and it just looks awesome. It looks like a Dragon Ball Z fight scene. Like, all right, maybe that's on me. If that's the case.
Listen, I love how when people were like making things, like starting to begin to make stuff, the default thing for people was to make giant penis men.
Yeah, I never even thought about making a dick in Tears of the Kingdom.
I didn't either.
And I'm surprised. That's usually what I'm all about. But no, I didn't think about it in Zelda.
But still, one of my favorite Tears of the Kingdom shorts of all time, and it will remain one of my favorites of all time, was the one where a guy had made one that like he hits it, he's got a penis, with the bombs and the log or whatever. The bombs on the log, and he shoots it with an arrow, and it just immediately goes from like a laying down position to just standing up, and just speeds towards like one of those Bacolon platforms and just blows up as it hits it. And it's like put to metal music, and it just I lose my shit every time. It is.
And you get like a flamethrower on the end of it, so it's just squirting out flames and
But then now you've got people like they're building Gundams. For fuck's sake.
And that didn't take long at all.
No.
Because, like, for me, I was very just, utilitarian with it, where it's just like, all right, I need to get to that side, I'll make a little boat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wasn't making, like, just drones. I mean, you just send them in and they just do the job for you. You just go in and get the treasure chests. But that's the beauty of this game. Like, for me, it was very much like, I'm very curious about the world. I want to explore, meet the characters. But the major draw is just like, what happened? Where's Zelda? And what's going on with Ganon. That was like a huge draw to me. But some people who just could not give a fuck, and they're just playing it like Minecraft. They're just going and just building stuff. They're not doing shrines. They're not doing anything. They're just like, what can I make? Which is
I
awesome.
think that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of shrines and creating shit, I think everybody got stumped on this shrine. I don't think I've seen a single person that didn't get stumped on this shrine that was in Central Hyrule with a ball and like an activation pad and a ramp.
Is that the one we're talking about?
It was the one we're talking about that we both skipped. I've seen so many people give up on that shrine now.
Yeah, it's not the one shrine I gave up on.
Nobody knew what the fuck to do. And you know what? In the end, it ended up being so stupidly simple.
Yeah, I didn't realize that post you hit it and it like swung.
It was meant to be like a T-ball type situation. And it just
because I understood it, but I'm like, how do I swing it? I don't know how I make it like go woof and hit the ball. That was where I was hung up because I made the contraption. I'm like. But then I was like trying to like just use Ultra Hand to like just knock it, by using the stick control when I'm actually holding the object.
But the funny thing is like you didn't even need all of that. You could just literally shoot the target with a bomb arrow and it did activate.
Yeah, but it's interesting because that is obviously one of the very first shrines you visit.
Yeah.
So the mechanic of like that post that does the swinging motion, you don't know that.
No.
You probably don't have bombs in your arsenal, so you can't just make a bomb
No,
arrow.
that's right. Yeah.
But like if I went there after 50 hours, I'm like, oh yeah, bang, boom, done.
Yeah, makes sense. Exactly right. Yeah. But like, it's just so funny because like the amount of people that I've seen like fuck up on that shrine or just not knowing how to do it, and then like there was this one guy that has been getting a lot of shit because it's just like overly critical about stupid shit, and he's like a Twitch streamer. Can't remember exactly what his name was.
Beth.
Yeah, Beth. Let's call him Beth, right? No, not really calling out. But he would like come in with the stupidest complaints and stuff like that, and he come in with that shrine. And he's just like, what the fuck is this bullshit? It makes no sense. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Just leave it and to go to another place.
So
That's the thing.
I was stumped as well, but I'm like,
Just leave.
I'm not going to blame the game. Like it's obviously like developers are actually like, oh fuck, we actually didn't think about that one. There is actually no way to solve it. It's like no, it's probably on me. I think I'm the one who's probably got to work things out here.
Yeah, and there is an area moment in the game where you don't feel like it's your own. It's their fault, if it makes sense. I feel like they've had more than enough time to like go through every single last little bit of this world and really figure it out. And I think they did perfectly fine. I don't think anything was too overlooked, except again maybe some of the glitches and stuff like that. More primarily like duplication glitches and stuff like that, which they've been really harsh about tackling. By the way, they seem to take it really seriously that people are duplicating.
Isn't it crazy? Because that was pretty simple. Like just how you activate. I never actually used it because I was like, I don't really want to play the game like that. But yeah, that's fair enough. But it was just so simple. It's like just the amount of time and polish that went into that game. It's like it's amazing just what slips through. Like they would have found just thousands and thousands and thousands of like bugs and different weird things that are happening when you're interacting with different items, whether it's fusing or just running against a particular tree in the world. Yeah. But it's just like there's always going to be something that slips through, especially when it's on this type of scale. Yeah. But it is cool that it was a good one because it was like it was amazing to watch. Like when I finished the game, I'm like, all right, let's watch a speed run. And duplication is like just so important to
it absolutely is
because like if you just run straight to Ganondorf, you need people like duplicating rubies and stuff to actually use with bow and like on arrows to do more damage and things like that and whatever. So it's like it's pretty impressive.
I actually I've over the last like week or so I've been like every like once a week so the last maybe 2-3 weeks I'm like I'll get to a stream, right, and I'll be like, all right, I'm just doing retro today or whatever, and then I'll like get to like the end of the stream, like, all right, I'm gonna try Mario 64 speedrun.
Okay, yeah.
And so I've actually done that a couple times. Now I'm shit at it. I'm still not good at it, but I've been improving.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a skill you got to hone. Yeah,
right. And like I don't want to just leave that at like, oh, I'm going to do Mario 64 speedrun every week. I'm like, I actually want to do different games, and Tears of the Kingdoms is one of those things. But like, I'm going to have to go back and get a physical copy now.
Yeah, right.
And then I'm going to have to make sure that my old Switch is disconnected from the internet entirely, so I can then put the physical copy in and have like a fresh 1.0 copy to do speedrunning on.
Yeah, that's something I was thinking about. Like, are speedrunners going to continue to use the 1.0?
Yeah, they probably will.
Or is there going to be different categories for like the more recent?
Because there usually is different categories.
Yeah, I'd like to see categories for like, all right, let's change things up. Let's not just duplicate stuff and let's run into it. But yeah, I watching like the speedrun at the time, which was the world record, I was thinking like, Jesus Christ. Like in there with like no equipment, no hearts, and like, especially like when you don't do the temples and you've got more to do. Yeah, it's like Christ. All right,
look, because those that run is not possible without like a shit ton of rubies. Like the rubies are the importance of that speed run now. It's like
100%.
Yeah. Like you get down to the monster forces. Obviously, you're still got to beat all the bosses, and like there's still the monster forces you got to get through.
Yeah.
But like the ruby arrows are the most important thing.
Yeah, like a normal playthrough and you just got a stick and maybe a couple of swords. Like that is, not even a little bit.
You need to be able to take out as many enemies as possible as quickly as you can, So like you grab, you do, it's a very similar situation to Breath of the Wild, right? Where you go to the castle, you run around and pick up as much of the strong shit as you possibly can. You go into the final boss fight. But like duplication, it is not possible without duplication, because like even if you do find all those items, there is so much more you've got to get through now if you choose to go to the final boss fight, right? Obviously before in Breath of the Wild, it's like, oh, you got to fight the 4 blights and then you got to fight Ganon. And then like Dark Beast Ganon sort of solves itself. It's like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. But like in Tears of the Kingdom, it's like you have to go through a gauntlet of enemies. You've got no choice. You have to go through a gauntlet of enemies to get down to where Ganondorf is. And then like you get down there, and then you get to fight 4 waves of enemies, 4 bosses, and then you've got 3 phases of Ganondorf, and then you can finally relax because you only need the Master Sword for the final part. Which, by the way, is really cool that like you pull the Master Sword out just before the final part, regardless of whether you collected it throughout the game or not.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah.
I think that's great because that like, I think a lot of people were, when they looked back at Breath of the Wild, they're just like, it's fucking bullshit that Link beat Ganondorf with a stick. Makes no sense.
Yeah, well, especially Ganondorf. I think it's important that, like, you know, we'll get into the story, but the story's like, you need this sword, otherwise you're fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
And the length that the story's like, we will make sure you have this sword.
Yes.
So the idea of like going to the final, it'll just destroy the whole fucking story.
Yeah, of
So,
course.
you know, they thought about that at least, and
they thought about it well. I think
Yeah.
it worked out really well.
I think the final bit is very much for the spectacle. It's not made for difficulty either.
No.
So like, yeah, it doesn't really matter whether they give you the sword or not.
Let's talk about the story because like
Absolutely.
seriously, that like we're gonna get into the finale as we go through it, but like, yeah, that was
So like, let's start at the trailer that happened. I don't know, was it a month or so before the release?
Yes.
The third trailer that came out, and we got that big hype trailer, and I was just that made me go from like, can't wait for Zelda, looking forward to it, to just like, fuck, I want that game so bad. Like,
And there's still a month to go.
I still watch that that trailer,
Oh, so do I.
and there's a channel on YouTube where they've rearranged it, so it's just like a musical piece.
Yes.
And I listen to that all the time.
Oh, because it's such a
Like, if I'm ever feeling like a little bit down, a little bit glum, I'm like, I need some Zelda. I need like that song.
motivational.
Yeah, like that gets me so just happy and excited, and it just
Breath of the Wild's like initial trailer was the same too.
100%.
How do they fucking nail it so well? They like at both times they've done it in such a way that just nails the vibe very like in a crazy good way.
Yeah.
Oh, my
It's
God.
also interesting how deep into the game those snippets are pulled from.
Yes.
All the way until like the encounter with Ganondorf at the very end. I'm like when he said that line when you're approaching the boss battle, I'm like, oh shit, that was in the trailer. Like that was.
You witness a king's revival.
So I was expecting that, like, you know, halfway through the story, like Ganondorf comes back, for example. But it's like, no, that's at the very end.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, it's just like that trailer was just incredible. So I had high expectations for the story, and it was funny jumping into the game because, like you, I was mushing the A button on the icon on the Switch home screen, like let me in, unlock, and like 11:30, I'm like looking at my phone, it clicked over. I'm like, click, like I'm just going at it. It's like, go. So you do not have permission. You do not have permission. And it's like loading a bit more. I'm like, there it fucking is. And it lets me in. I'm expecting to, like, because I'm in bed at the time. I got my TV at the end of the bed. So, all right, you know, time to crack my knuckles a bit. You know, I'm going to go to new games, select my save file, you know, all that type of thing. No, straight into it. Just says like the Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. Then it's just straight into a cinematic. Then like that ends, you go straight into like thumbs on the sticks, like going down to the catacomb. I'm like, this is a really awesome way to start the game, and I think it's a great middle ground between what Breath of the Wild offers and what other Zelda games offered, like, you know, Skyward Sword and stuff like that, where it's like it took fucking hours to start that goddamn game. Because I think it's important that Breath of the Wild did what it did when it came out, because we came off of Skyward Sword. So it's like, hey, look, we've got this big world. You can pick up the game and you can go and explore it. It's like, that's awesome. Yeah. You got a few like tutorial sort of things to do on the Great Plateau, but apart from that, you can explore to your heart's content.
Even with the Great Plateau and the Great Sky Island, right? Those two pieces of tutorials are above and beyond. They are what tutorials should be. Like
Yeah.
tutorials in older Zelda games. I love my 3D Zelda games. I do. I love them to death. It doesn't matter. Like Ocarina of Time, stuff like that. Ocarina of Time's a bit faster than most tutorial sections in Zelda games because it does literally just throw you straight into a dungeon.
It got a lot slower.
But it got a lot slower over the
Yeah.
years. Like Twilight Princess is slow. Wind Waker's not as slow, but it's still pretty slow.
Slow enough.
It's slow enough. And then like Skyward Sword, holy fuck, yes, it's slow. But like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, like at least it's still got a tutorial area. But it gives you the sense of freedom immediately.
Yeah, for sure. Because with Breath of the Wild, it was very awesome to be thrown straight into gameplay and like, you know, start picking up stuff and seeing camps and working out how you can take them out without dying. But for a lot of people, there just wasn't that intrigue with the story. And we both know that Breath of the Wild has an amazing story and the lore surrounding the whole Hyrule and what happened in the past, and you know, Link went to when it got revived pretty much for 100 years, and that's all awesome backstory in that. But you've really got to search it out, and even to the point where you've got to.
A lot of people didn't like that.
Yeah,
but I personally thought it was a like good because it was a unique way.
Yeah, it was elegant enough to get what you need.
Tell the story.
But I definitely got more out of the story once like I went and like got content elsewhere on YouTube and stuff, like really sort of piecing it all together, and you can sort of read it through and think back to your playthrough, then you're like, oh, well, yes, that's very cool.
Yes.
But the intrigue from Tears of the Kingdom straight away was just like...
being thrown into it.
Yeah, it was like a traditional game that you usually play, where it's like, here's the story, but also once all the shit went down with Ganondorf, once you went down to his chamber and he's like, I'm back, bitch. And, Zelda goes back in time and like, fuck, where'd she go? Then you're in this mysterious place, the Great Sky Island, and you sort of piecing together in your own head, what's going on? Where am I? Who's this talking to me? And it was a great tutorial just on top of all the story stuff. But like even the tutorial, I really appreciate it because I hadn't played Breath of the Wild for years. So I was like I remember like jump was X, just controls that are a little bit different. You got to get used to again. And like you're holding like different bumpers down to select items. Now, like it's a cumbersome sort of control method, but personally for me, doing the tutorial, getting used to it, I never had any problems with the controls. I know that's something that a lot of people bring up, that they don't like the controls. It became second nature after playing it for so long in like 1 week. But yeah, I think the opening to the game was just awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the thing, is like that first 10 minutes sets up so much without even saying too much, honestly, at all. Like Zelda and Link are down there. Like even just looking back at the E3 trailer, like I feel like to a degree we didn't get absolutely what we wanted out of it, but the vibe was immaculate. Just everything about it. So when we were going under Hyrule Castle and stuff like that, like when we looked at the trailer, it looked a little bit more spectacular than that. Which, I mean, so did Breath of the Wild when it initially got revealed.
Oh yeah, Breath of the Wild was like, holy shit.
Yeah, holy shit. This is going to be Zelda. And then it's like, okay, yeah, all right. We probably should have tempered our expectations a bit. But like, it set up everything in such a way that it was just like, holy fuck, this is creepy as shit. It's like, what are we walking into? You get to Ganon, and you're like, holy shit, the fucking... the gloom shooting out and then trying to repel it with the Master Sword, but it failing, and like not only the Master Sword getting chewed up, but Link losing everything in that instance, all the way down to 3 hearts.
Yes, that sequence, man. Like you know it's coming because you start the game and you just like see
you've got everything.
You see full hearts. You're like, oh fuck, I'm losing this. Especially because you know what's down there because we've seen the trailers. Like we know Ganondorf's down there.
Yeah, and
we know he's. I guess I'm walking down there myself, fully knowing I'm gonna get fucked up. I guess that's what Nintendo's making me do.
Very, very Metroid. Very 100%,
Metroid. Yeah.
It's exactly what it did. And then it was just like getting hit in that instance, and then just like the second swing coming, the piece of sword flying off and cutting Ganondorf's cheek. It's just like, well, the sword still does its job, but it's kind of fucked now.
Yeah, so that was a really interesting sort of sequence because they shown how powerful the sword is, but at the same time showing you how powerful Ganondorf is.
Exactly.
And I thought that was like a really smart way, and like, and you can feel like just the strength, even like the simple things like the vibration in the controller when your hearts are going down, like you're seeing like Link struggling with his arm, and like, yeah, no, it was just unreal.
Awesome.
It was like, yeah, I was like, so like that straight away just set up just so much intrigue, and obviously, you know, no disrespect to Breath of the Wild, but starting Tears of the Kingdom, like, fuck, I got to know what happens, but. In Breath of the Wild, you're very much just like, let's play the game, let's have some fun. But there's a little bit more sort of intrigue to the start of Tears of the Kingdom. So, yes, man, so good. I can't wait to get into more of the story. So, you sort of like, you know, when we get back down to, how do you want to tackle it? Do you want to talk about the just the geoglyphs?
Yeah, we probably should talk about that first. It's interesting because, like, obviously with this game, there is way more ways to digest story in this game than it was in Breath of the Wild, where it was basically just like, you know, Breath of the Wild, it's like, find Impa. Impa sends you off to Hatenno, you come back from Hatenno, and then Impa's like, yeah, find your memories, right? And then from there, it's very straightforward. But, like, here, obviously, we've got stuff going on actively, and then you've got the geoglyphs, and sort of, you know, you got other little things on top of that as well that sort of help push the story along. But obviously the most important part is definitely the geoglyphs, which I know that, like, looking at it, I'm like, oh god, there are people that are not going to be happy that there's memories back in the game. But they're not memories in the same way that...
yeah, it contextually makes a lot of sense, actually.
It actually does.
For, like, this game. Like in Breath of the Wild, it's like, why am I finding this memory here? Because, like you go to the location where it happened. It's like, well, that part makes sense, but why am I... Yeah, it's like, it doesn't really make that much sense. But in the context of this game, it's very much like Zelda's gone back in time and she's left you clues of what's happened so you can piece together what you need to do. And, you know, that's a little bit more clear. And of course, like when you get shot up into the air, you can like scan the ground just with like your eyes and all right, there's a geoglyph very easily pointed out there. I'll fly over there and
it wasn't as convoluted as Breath of the Wild's.
Because I used the guide in Breath of the Wild.
I think we all did
to find the memories there because it's very, very specific. It just gave you like a hint of like, this is the view you have from this location. It's like, well, I don't know Hyrule all that well just yet because I haven't played it a whole lot. But I would like to get that story. But doing the geoglyphs was, you know, I really. It's fun just because it's like, you know, check marks in an open world. That's always fun, like just going around doing things. But it's also the part where you get like the major story beats, and that is a part of the game I really enjoyed. And throughout sort of the perspective from Zelda as you're going through, you can get them in different orders. So like for me, I saw like Ganondorf like being reborn. I'm like, I probably need a bit more context leading up to this. So I was like, did I just get the spoiler through the game rather than just seeing it online or something? But once I did them all, I'm like, you know what? It's actually kind of cool that you can do it in your own order and you can piece it together. Yeah. Because regardless of if you see like Ganondorf bringing back the army straight away, or you see in order the lead up to that, you can still think about it in the way like when I saw Ganondorf come back, I'm like, oh, well, what happened? I want to see what he did to get there. And then I went back, found another memory with you know, him getting the sacred stone. I'm like, oh, that's how he did. Like, you know, work it out in my own way. I thought that was actually kind of cool.
But what Tears of the Kingdom does in this regard that Breath of the Wild did not is that it gave you an order.
Yeah.
Right. And it like I'm not sure if a lot of people did know, like, you know, if you were following quests, then maybe you were paying attention. But a lot of people, I don't think, picked up on it in the beginning, because I certainly didn't. But if you follow Impa's quest chain, it takes you back down to the Forgotten Temple, which, if you remember the Forgotten Temple, it's where you got your old tunic, your tunic of the wilds. Anyway, after you finished all the shrines. Anyway, the goddess statue's down, revealed a room behind it, and in that room is actually like a map with the location of every geoglyph, and it has an order from left to right in which ones you should go to first or whatever. And Impa goes, she actually says it verbally, she's just like, it looks like that is a particular order or something. Do you know what I mean? So it actually does set it up to be like, hey, we know that you had a lot of complaints about not finding things in order and being like it being all jumbled. So here is an order that is naturally integrated into the game in a way that allows you to find them in order. And I think that's great. But I was one of those people that didn't have the attention span to begin with and just went and did them at my own pace.
Yeah, so I took a screenshot of that map. I was referring back to it in the Switch menu to like, which one am I missing? That one. So I mark it on my map, then I go fly to it. But I never noticed an order either. If I went back and I actually wanted to, would I have done it in order? Would I have cared enough to be like, or would I have just been like, look, it's going to take too much time to skip this one and go to this one. I'd rather just get them, on my own path. I probably would have done that anyway, I think, just for my own sanity to save time, maybe, instead of like going from one corner to the other corner to whatever order it was in.
Yeah. Yeah, I get
But
that.
I really, really enjoyed it. And what are some like highlights for you out of like, I guess, Zelda's journey as she went back in time? Because I think the concept of her going back in time, it was like, oh yeah, that's kind of a thing that happens in the Legend of Zelda.
The Zelda thing.
But I think just what it did for this story was just fascinating. How it was like, it just gave you the lore of a completely different Hyrule that we've had before, with the Zonai, and introduces to, the main cast of characters, which are characters from 10,000 years ago, which was really neat. And the implications of, I guess the Zelda lore and Hyrule current day that we're playing in.
I think the thing that really grabbed me, right, as like an Oot veteran, was the memory in particular of like Raru's sitting on the throne, Princess Sonia's sitting on the throne, Zelda's sitting there looking like an attendant, and Ganondorf is taking the knee, and stuff like that. And I'm just like, in my own eyes, I just like, at the time, I thought back to Oot and just like looking at Ganondorf through that window and then getting that malicious smile out of him and stuff like that. And I'm just like, oh God, like we all know it's coming. We're not stupid.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Like he's right there. He's doing the thing. And then, it kind of just, that tickled me a little bit because I was like, we got more of a discussion point out of him as opposed to like, obviously not Ocarina of Time, you're just looking through a window, it's like, oh, big scary man. But like in this, like it actually shows that he can be deceptive, but he also isn't trying to be deceptive. He knows very well what he wants, and he knows that other people know what he wants at the time, but he's doing it to show face, I guess. So that was one of them, and then the other one was like the actual transformation sequence after obtaining the stone. A lot of people thought in this instance that it's like, oh shit, it was Demise, like in the trailer. And what I find unique about Demon King Ganondorf, especially in this instance, looking at him in this instance, it's like, it's not Demise, but a lot of the design they have taken from Demise and injected into Ganondorf, because I think a lot of us would have been like, oh shit, Demise, that's like a huge thing, and it's going to be Demise, and Demise is going to be like, oh look, I'm back, ha ha ha, like I've come back through my reincarnation. But no, it's not that. It's still Ganondorf, right? And his ambitions are still his own, and it didn't have to be like this whole thing of like, oh yes, I've turned into a completely separate entity now that I've swallowed this fucking stone. Well, that I've attained this stone, not swallowed it yet, but and they kept it looking like him, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I wonder from like a lore perspective, obviously it very much looks like Demise, but like in this game, there's no sort of talk about the Triforce or anything like that. That was a big theme in Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
Like, is it just a coincidence of a thing, or is it Demise's power from the Sacred Stone? That's something I just sort of thought about then, but...
Well, see, the power of the sacred stones is not... It's not the stones itself. The stones bring out the latent power in the person.
Yeah.
So...
True. Okay. Gotcha.
So Zelda always has the power of light and time. But that latent power isn't brought out until until they have the secret stone. Secret stone. Fucking hate... It's the only thing I hate about them is such a dumb name. Secret Stone. Just call them something else. Like, really, they could have come up with a name.
I was just calling them Tears until they said
They could have
it
been.
wasn't.
They could have been called Tears.
Like, oh, are these the Tears of the Kingdom?
Sacred Tears. That would have been better. But anyway, obviously they had.
Jesus Christ.
Really want to suck at your door, mate.
Yeah, we'll suck the door. Hope the vacuum cleaner isn't coming through too much.
Nah, I think it does a little bit. I mean, we can hear it, but I think we'll be right. Anyway, but I think, and it's the same thing. The power of demise is always within every iteration of Ganondorf. That's the source of his magic. That is why he is a warlock. That is, that's where his magic comes from. It comes from like passed down, intergenerational, whatever. Now, I had different ideas for Ganondorf when it came to this. I thought, well, shit, the way that Ganondorf's going to be introduced in this game is they tried to seal, like, the dark beast within him in order to try and contain it, and it didn't work. And then he became, because we all had the tapestry theory. It looked like Ganon. It did not look like Link. We obviously got something a little bit further from the truth from that, and, like, I suppose you finished the shrines?
Yeah. Oh. No, not all the shrines.
Okay, do you know the reward for finishing all the shrines?
In Tears of the Kingdom?
Yes.
No, I actually don't, no.
Okay, do you care?
I guess not, no. Spoiler cast, so I guess I can't.
Well, all right, in essence, it is a suit that looks very much like what Link looks like in the poster. Now, we don't have any missive or any reason to know what the fuck that means behind it. Hopefully we'll get that in DLC because it's kind of confusing.
Okay.
But anyway, my point is like, yes, that exists. So we all thought it was Ganon in the tapestry. Turns out it is not. And like we all thought, oh yeah, maybe the Dark Beast was sealed inside him, and then it like he lost the battle with it or whatever. But it didn't happen that way. And I think that's okay because the way that they've sort of explained it in this is the secret stone made the latent power that resides in Ganondorf after all these generations of like, reincarnation or whatever. It has brought that latent power back out, and it is very clearly its roots. Like, it is Demise. Like, he's got scales running up him and stuff like that, which was very iconic of Demise. And, the long flowing red hair that's like fucking RGB.
Yeah.
And like just, the sort of the darker skin tone really taking like a darker shades, and like his eyes glowing and stuff like that. It's all very Demise characteristics. And I think they wanted to show that in essence that like it all does tie back to Demise. That is what it is. Just as way, like looking at Zelda's powers and how Zelda would jump through the gates of time, and like her primary thing was making sure that like the spirit of light carried on and stuff like that in Skyward Sword, is still her thing because of the secret stones. It's just bringing back those ancient latent powers to the front end. And I think that's why they brought back Skyward Sword HD. Because they were like, it familiarizes people with Demise so that they can look at Ganondorf and be like, oh, that's where his power comes from, because look, the scales. And then like, obviously Zelda having like the powers of light and time or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, so that makes a lot more sense, because like it has that going back in time perspective in much more of a like frontal light for Zelda specifically, because the only other time is Ocarina of Time, which is still very vague. But in Skyward Sword, it's very in the front end. It's like, oh, of course. Well, okay, so Zelda's ancestors did the same thing. They had the powers of time and light to go back in time or what have you, and they're sort of bringing it to the front. And
yeah, I thought there might be a few more sort of things leading from Skyward Sword into this, but it is very much just like maybe explaining the source of Ganondorf's power as well as Zelda and Link. I think that's kind of where the extent goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was maybe expecting a little bit more, but it's not like that's a bad thing or whatever. It's just
no.
You could see like, yeah, there was a reason Skyward Sword was re-released on Switch, so people could go and experience that story for potentially the first time to work out,
familiarize themselves and what was going on. Yeah,
but yeah, I think it's so, like, would you agree with this? I reckon it's the best Ganondorf, best Zelda, best Link. Like that's personally my thoughts. I think they're the strongest in these games. Like I think all three of them.
You know what? Like personally, I think so. I do think that this Link at times lacks a bit of personality that people like to get from Link, if that makes sense. Like I feel like Twilight Princess Link's pretty strong, for example.
Yeah.
I think he's a pretty strong Link because he's a farm boy with a lot of ambitions, and like you can see it in his facial expressions and stuff like that, you know, that's what he is. And then obviously like you've got Wind Waker Link who's full of expressions.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Whereas this Link is very stoic, and he knows his place in life and what he's got to do. And I think that is very important to this kind of Hyrule. So I think with this kind of Hyrule, very strong mesh. I think if you put him in any other situation though, he probably would feel a little bit out of place.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
With Zelda, I think Zelda's an extremely strong character in this game, and I think like it's rivaling Skyward Sword. I think Skyward Sword, like this game with its characteristics, tries really hard to rival with Skyward Swords, especially in the main characters. So maybe not so much the Link part, because Link is again sort of like Twilight Princess Link. He's like, and he's
really goofy, and everyone thinks he's lazy. And
yeah, that's right.
He's got like a bad reputation, and he sort of redeems himself.
That's right.
In that game, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas like the Link in the Link in this, again, he's a stoic knight, and he knows his duty and what he's got to do. But then Zelda, I feel like is a little less helpless feeling, and I think she's grown a lot from Breath of the Wild, where they tried to make her look strong, but then she ended up looking helpless anyway. But in this, it's just like, she is strong. She's really strong. In fact, she made the ultimate sacrifice in order to be there, you know, for Link in the end, which is not something that a lot of Zeldas have done over the years. The only other one I can say that doesn't look helpless as well is probably Twilight Princesses.
Yeah. I'd say, and in the Skyward Sword, she goes through a lot.
She does go through a lot.
Become who she needs to be.
But at the same time, like, the only thing with, like, I do feel like she still embodies the helpless princess vibe in some ways. Do you know what I mean? Like, whenever there's scenes with Zelda, they're always running away from something. They're never actually, like, facing what they have to do.
True. Yeah, okay.
Right? Yeah. Whereas in Twilight Princess, like, literally Zelda is there to defend her kingdom, rapier in hand, until she realizes she has to give up because she's not going to win. So she surrenders the kingdom to Zant, and then, like, further on, it's just like she's locked away in the tower. She sacrifices her life for Midna's health so that they may come back afterwards. So she gives in and she gives up her light, which leaves her open to the darkness, which is how Ganondorf takes control. And there's a lot of sacrifices like that. With Skyward Sword, it's kind of just like we're running away until Zelda has to be sealed in a crystal, which again is admittedly very, I guess, tragic in its own sense.
I guess she can only do so much, you know.
No, that's right.
Like, she's trying to discover her power, so
that's exactly right.
So she can't really buy her up.
Of course.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. But put your dukes up.
But I mean, like, even Zelda in Breath of the Wild was the same thing. She's just like frustrated because she can't get her power.
Yeah.
And she actually has to step up at some point because Link is on the verge of dying. It's like, well, I have to get in there and fight Ganon. And she does that.
She just fucking runs there and says, fuck it.
But she does for 100 years, but you don't really see any effect of it. She's just kind of there, and then she isn't, and then she is.
Well, she's just holding him off.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And you don't see how that's happening. It's just kind of is what it is. Which is why a lot of people didn't feel a lot for her in the beginning. But in this one, it's like in the past, she's figuring out how to use her powers of time. And like that reflects really well on Link because he actually inherits recall from her. It inherits her recall power. It's like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because you probably did the same thing. You might have got one of the memories before you went and done one of the temples. Mm-hmm. And when they refer to Zelda as like the Sage of Time, I'm like, come again? What did you just say?
Yeah.
And like, especially once I found out, like, you go into the temples and you're basically, you know, getting the sacred stones to make your allies the
companions they need to be.
Yeah, it's just like, sorry, what? I'm going around recruiting the sages.
Yeah.
Like, that is so fucking cool.
Yeah, it's huge.
As someone who's like loves their Zelda lore, but that is amazing. That is
Massive.
because you know in Ocarina of Time or Twilight Princess, it's like a cutscene and like ooh, they're just like mysterious figures. Like, but in this, it's like they're your friends and like you're making this party to like
Yeah, that's right.
just fuck him up pretty much.
And coming back on it, like that makes Zelda a stronger character, let alone a lot of the other characters. Right?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
like when it comes to sages and stuff like that, a lot of people look back who played Ocarina of Time and they're just like, oh my god, I have so many memories of the sages, you know, and they all have like relationships with Link and stuff like that, and it's the same here. Now, a lot of these characters we already know of anyway, right? Except Tulin was kind of a baby back in Breath of the Wild and stuff like that. And obviously, spoiler alert, Minoru is probably the only one you don't have a deep personal relationship with. Yeah. Still cool nonetheless to have her. I think it's a really interesting way that they managed to bring her back as a sage. Yeah. So like, it's just like, all right, I'm future-proofing this shit. I'm making sure that I'm going to be present for this. It's like, I'm going to make a construct that could be, you know, rebuilt at any time. And I'm going to make sure that, you know, I am there.
I'm in it.
To make sure that this never happens again. And I think that's really neat. I don't really like the construct's power too much.
Using it, yeah.
It's kind of tedious and kind of annoying.
Yeah, I agree.
But still really cool. I think that was a really cool way of doing it. Again, like you build these personal relationships with these characters, and then they follow you everywhere if you want. You know, you can have their spirits out and just like, oh yeah, just fucking roam around the countryside, beat on some bitches. Like,
certainly helps a lot.
It does.
It's just like when you've got to activate their power though.
That's irritating.
Yeah. Yes, it is very irritating. Especially like there was some instances in some horde situations where someone who I need their power like now. They're on the other side, like fighting people. So I've got to like weave through the enemies. I'm like, excuse me, come through. Yeah, excuse me, I need your lightning ability, please.
They could have figured out a way better way to work out these. Yeah, it is my biggest gripe with the game.
Yeah, it's definitely one of mine too.
They definitely could have found a better way to make these work, because literally relying on like you could have made it button inputs, guys. You could have made it button.
Yeah,
inputs.
there needed to be a wheel or something.
Well, it didn't even have to be a wheel. It could have just been like X button with like ABXY. It could have been that just as fine, because it's not like Mineru's you have to worry about anything. It's only the other four. Mineru's is just you can mount the construct.
Get on it, yeah.
Right. So it could have just been a button combo. And like I was going through options like when I was playing it, I'm like, yeah, they could have assigned it to, I think it was like ZL and then like ABXY or something like that, and it would have been perfectly fine.
I guess the only devil's advocate thing as far as what the decision they made, there's already that many button combinations as far as holding bumpers and triggers and whatever to do certain things. And
yeah, I agree.
Adding another one to that, like a lot of people are already complaining about the controls. So maybe putting some more sort of, you know, combinations you've got to put in would be worse for people in some aspects. So maybe that's what they're thinking. Like, look, we've already got enough to sort of think about on the controller. These would just be very simple to activate. You know, just next to you, press A, and you'll use their ability. But
I think their line of thought was actually more that in more situations than one, you do just activate the abilities by natural. So like, for example, if you jump off a ledge and you hit your paraglider, you can activate Tulins at any time.
Yeah, so that's fine. That was no problem at all.
And then with Unobos, it's like if you are flying an object or riding a vehicle, Unobo will sit on the front of your plane and you can launch him at any time. So stuff like that, I think they were like, yes, like in these situations,
yeah, it's fine.
You're probably not going to miss it. But there are situations, it's like, I want to go do the boss fights again. You roll up with 4 of your best buddies. It's like, I need Unobo's power. It's like, well, I've got to fucking cycle through all of them. And like, hopefully
they're all together. And it's like, it's very particular, like, which one you're going to select.
And it's a pain in the ass like that. And you don't really want to do that. But like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, I almost never have them on anyway. I have a habit of turning them off, unless it's like Tulin.
Leave him on.
Yeah, because like at this point in the game, I don't need 4 of them rolling around with me at all times. I think it's neat having them with me, but I don't need all 4 of them rolling around with me at all times.
How do you feel about the Rito having by far the best ability in both games?
Is it though?
Yeah.
Nah.
Don't reckon? Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so Zora's ability is kind of useless. It's whatever. It's far worse. Far worse. Poor Sidon really got shafted.
Yeah, he did.
He got shafted. pretty
Favorite
hard.
character, but yeah.
Yeah, he got shafted hard. Riju's ability is neat but unnecessary. But the real tie-off for me is actually between Tulin and Yunobo. And the reason I say Tulin and Yunobo is because for a lot of the game, Yunobo is actually extremely handy. One, because your bombs are not limitless anymore. Like, you actually have to have them and save them and stuff like that, which means that also weapons are kind of finite as well, because if you run out of bombs, which are a lot rarer than what they used to be in Breath of the Wild, probably for obvious reasons considering how many bomb exploits there were in Breath of the Wild, Yunobo comes in clutch, because if you are looking, like, for example, you're like, oh yes, I'm going to go underground, I need to expand my battery, I need to collect Zonite, or and then you go down to the thing, it's like, oh yes, here's a mine. Mine is filled with rocks. You pop Yunobo, you throw him at the fucking big pile of rocks. He pretty much blows up all of them in one hit, and you just collect all the little pieces. It's like, sweet. That's actually really, really handy. And then there are situations where, his ability can actually come in handy for stunning purposes when it comes to enemies and stuff like that as well. Whereas Tulin's can be a burden as well as it is a boon. You kill an enemy, you accidentally activate Tulin. There goes the drops all the way off the Sky Island. See you later, you loot.
I haven't had that yet, but yeah.
There are many people who have run into that problem. Whereas you don't have that problem with Yunobo. Yunobo's does not have that much of a disruptive term. If you're firing Yunobo at something, usually you want to fire Yunobo at it anyway. So you're not really, So there are downsides to Tulin's. But it is, of course, you're going to use it a hell of a lot more than anything else in the game. But Yunobo's doesn't really have a downside, and it is useful for collecting certain resources and certain combat situations. So I think it's a hard tie between those two. But the other three, in terms of their abilities, I'll probably almost never use them. Again, Mineru as the construct, that's cool and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, because when you first get access, you're like, oh my god, cool. When you get on, it's like slow as fuck. Oh no, straight off. No.
I just love putting a fan on her back and then activating the fan, and then just seeing her arms go behind her. I love that so much. I love that. Just seeing the fucking arms wibble. It's so fun. But anyway, on that course though, we never really got around to it. But in the wrap ups of each of them. So, like, when it come down to, like, the sages and stuff like that, obviously, you collect your 4 sages. They can be done in any order, just as they were in Breath of the Wild. And then it really sets you on the path of, like, where is the 5th? Right? And you got, like, the Thunderhead Isles in the sky and stuff like that. And, like, they were always sort of intrigued because it's like, oh, look, there's a big cloudy mass in the sky. What the fuck is this? And then there's, like, this little journey for Monero. Did you come across a spirit temple before doing that? Because I did.
No, I didn't. No, I would assume you would have, because you did the underground so much.
Underground exploring, and I found the spirit temple. And I'm like, oh, holy shit, there is a 5th.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like, there is a 5th sage.
Yeah, because I did the 4. I'm like, obviously continuing on the story. I was like, oh well, I'm looking for a 5th one. All right, the story. There's more to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I didn't come across it before I was meant to.
I know that their setup was that the section before, when you're actually building Monero, was supposed to fill in for the spirit temple. Little disappointed that was the case. I think a spirit temple in the underground was something that would have been a good balance, because we had 2 places in the sky that the sky was relatively empty, so it was sort of just like, yeah, okay, it makes a lot of sense to sort of fill it out a little bit. And then obviously we had Riju on the ground, and we had Yunobo in the depths. But I feel like it would have fleshed out the depths just that little bit more if we had that spirit temple in a little bit more of a regards than just a boxing match between robots.
Yeah.
Because that's what it was. It was a boxing match between robots. It was a fun boss fight. I loved it.
Yeah,
It
that was fun. Yeah.
a lot of fun. But I wish there was more of a temple behind it where you could actually like really utilize Mineru's abilities, because I feel like that is half the reason I don't use Mineru, because
It didn't really teach you, did it?
well, it teaches you, but it doesn't give you enough.
Not through actually playing the game though.
No.
Like it says, like you do this, you do this, you do this, and it's like you do the boxing match, and that's kind of it as far as utilizing it. It's not like, yeah, it's not utilizing the actual mechanics of the
robot.
temple.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
it's very much just like, all right, you know, you get these pieces,
stick them to Mineru and
yeah, you bring them back, and then it'll activate. Then you take it and beat up the other one.
yeah.
That's kind of what you do in a
Like,
nutshell.
If you press A in like when you're not in any situation when you're not in behind Mineru, I think that should be like a command option. So like if you attach cannon arms to Mineru, right? Let's say you press A when you're next to Mineru or in front of Mineru, then it should be like a command option. So then like if you're in the Spirit Temple, right? And let's say Spirit Temple is actually a dungeon, and there's like a flip switch, but it only opens door for like half a second or whatever the fuck. And you don't have access to that switch because it's around a corner. I think you should be able to like command Mineru, right? To go and hit the switch for you so you can move through the gate. And then like stuff like that would have made like for an actual temple. But they don't utilize Mineru enough for that to feel, I guess, of worth.
Yeah, that's satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah. But like going down there and like building construct, because I found the construct well before anything, and then I found like, because it's actually not that far from the first hole you jump down, to be honest. And then
Yeah,
like,
can you do the construct factory like way out of order?
no, you cannot.
So what's blocking you?
You have to do the 4 stages first.
Yep.
It is.
What happened when you went there? Just nothing happened, or
You try to use the mechanisms and they won't allow you. You don't have access.
Okay, gotcha.
Because you need to take the mask from the Thunderhead Isle.
Of course, yes, yeah.
And then you need to place it on Mineru, and then Mineru opens all the access for you.
Yeah.
But despite that, like actually having Mineru there was a surprise, because like even though like I was like, oh yes, it's a 5th stage, I didn't know it would be Mineru. That didn't really cross my path, and I didn't even fucking think of it. But it was cool to have somebody that was like from the actual time when they originally fought Ganon to be there and just be like, I have made sure that I'm going to be here for this. I thought that was awesome. And the boss fight was cool. Again, just a little bit sad, and there wasn't a temple.
It took me a couple of tries because I didn't have the mechanics of the actual thing down all that well. So I'm like, he just like fucked me up a couple of times. I forgot what clicked eventually. I'm like, then I just took him down pretty easily. But
I think I one-shot him, but it took me a while to get him into the fence a few times, because I was like, just fucking get in there. But he just like, he maneuvered his way around me a fair bit.
big boy. Bigger.
He was.
Yeah.
But then there's the other 2 parts of the story, which are the sort of investigational part of like the Zonai ruins and stuff like that with Jesus.
With Jesus
With
Christ comes
Jesus.
down from the sky.
With Toro and with Toro and shit.
Okay, I can't say I'm not all get that good with names. I've forgotten as well.
Toro and it's on my fucking it's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
Hate that. Impa's descendant.
Yeah.
Who's the new village chief. Starts with a P as well, I think.
Pimper.
All right.
No,
Anyway,
I can't remember. Sorry.
I'll think about it. It'll just come up all of a sudden. You're just like, oh, duh, yeah, okay.
It hits
Anyway.
you in the side of the face.
Yeah, that's right. And the sort of like Toro is like a huge. That's another part that I haven't finished as well either. Is the 12 stones that you got to take pictures of. I've got to do that. But Toro is like a Zonai specialist. Now, obviously, like in like Breath of the Wild, we're all like, oh, what the fuck are the Zonai? Look at all these structures. Oh my god, Jesus.
Just ways.
But like Toro is a Zonai specialist, and he's like all integrated with the language and stuff like that, and like he wants to learn more about them. And these rings have fallen down onto Kakariko Village, and he's just like, oh, like we want to know more about them, and like they're like trying to figure out more of the history of like what happened with the Zonai and their language, and like I think like it was really good to have like that backwater context that like we didn't get in Tears of the Kingdom, because the stuff was just there. It's just like, oh hey, look, it's the fucking ruins. The fuck are Typhlow ruins? I've never fucking seen that, which are now uncovered in Tears of the Kingdom. So it's kind of good to see it a little bit more full now, even though it's got a tower right in the middle of it. But yeah, but it's just like it's getting that little bit of context is good. A lot of people were they were like, oh, we want to see the Twilly back. I'm like, they're not gonna fucking talk about the Twilly in this game. They're not gonna. They got a whole nother race they got to talk about. So the Zonai are there. It's like you're probably gonna get similar vibes from them, and I think people mostly did. They mostly got the similar vibes from them. They're like, yeah. But Zonai was something was always interested me in Breath of the Wild. I'm like, because I'm like, they're gonna focus about these guys in Tears of the Kingdom. They have to. It's really important. But did you get much out of it? Did you feel, or was it something that sort of just washed over you?
No, it was really cool because I guess in Breath of the Wild, the whole Zono aspect of the game kind of washed over me. Like, hey, it's like, I didn't really think about it that much until like the lead up to this game. Everyone's like, oh look, I think there's a lot of clues that Zono are going to be part of that, and it wasn't really until then that I'm like, sorry, what? Who are these people? But it's straight off the bat, it's just, Zelda's talking about Zonai and all that. You're like, oh, it's really, really interesting. And all the main characters were a part of that. And the sort of like, that part of the game acts as like all right, let's settle down and like really focus on them again. Because before that, you're just like, all right, we got to go to the temples. We've got to like fix the environmental issues that are happening in each region. But until then, you're not really sort of focusing on like what the history of this race is. Apart from you just seeing them in the past memories. Yeah. So yeah, I quite enjoyed that, because every time I went to Kakariko Village, you're always like pointing up at like the ring. I'm like, And then like that's like a big part of the story, which is pretty cool.
You're as stupid as I was and completely forgot that you could use fucking ascend to get into the ring. I was dumb as shit and forgot about it.
I actually,
like, how the fuck do you get into this ring?
I forgot about Ascend so many times.
So many people did.
But actually that wasn't one of the times. But I was descending into like the wrong part. I'm like, where the fuck do I go? I was like, what part do I ascend into? Until I saw it, like where it's an obvious platform to go up into like this little bit rather than like the full ring itself. I'm like, oh. So I found it eventually, but yeah, I was trying to get into like the main ring.
Yeah.
Like, is it in here? Or what the fuck is it?
I will forever forget about Ascend unless I'm standing in a cave.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? In a cave, like you get to the end of the cave.
There was some caves I forgot about it in.
I know, but yeah, like I feel like for the most part, it feels obvious. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh yes, you got to Ascend. Except maybe the Hinox trio. The Hinox trio, I fucking completely forgot about and climbed out of every fucking cave. I was just like, I'm a dumbass. Anyway.
There was a couple of wells I went down into. I'm like, oh fuck.
How the fuck do I get out?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, fuck, stuck.
Oh, yeah, Ascend.
It's like literally 10 minutes. I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah, fucking Ascend.
Eventually I pop back up. So, oh, that was simple.
And I love how developers were like, oh yeah, we thought this was a really handy ability in our development time, so we actually thought we'd give it to people in the game, and everybody just fucking forgets about it. It's like, okay.
Well, it's just like you're just never given that flexibility in games. You're never given that flexibility.
No, you never get the opportunity to no clip through walls in video games like that.
It goes to show, just like if you've played a few games, you've just got certain expectations and ways that you play a game, and that is just a way you never play a game. You never play a game like that. Never played a game like that in my life, where it's like
you can just travel through walls.
You just go through the ceiling.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, it never happens. So it's like, it's natural to forget about it.
It is like a godsend of an ability that opens up so much potential, but it's just so forgettable. Like, you can literally have the deepest cave with an end that, like, it's impossible to climb out of this hole, but, like, it is, like, such an interesting prospect of, like, oh, wow, holy shit. Like, but then you, like, get to the end of it, you're like, well, the fuck, we'll get out of here now.
Yeah, it's like in the underground, there's like certain parts where the ceiling's low enough to ascend through.
Yeah.
And you'll be ascending for like 30 seconds, like, bro, just swimming through ground. And it's super interesting just to see where you pop out. Like, you're like,
I know
this is
where
where it
this
is.
is.
Then you
Yeah.
press B and you go back down. That was nice, and you keep going on with whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go out.
And it's a good quick easy exit if you don't want to teleport. Like if you literally just you get yourself absorbed in it and you're like, I'm really enjoying my time in this game and I want to go discover things. I don't want to be teleporting everywhere, which I think like is like a huge boon for these games. It's like even though you have all these teleport options, sometimes you don't want to use them because you're like, what if I miss something?
Yeah, well, you will miss something.
That's what I mean. And like I'm still missing a lot. There's still a lot I haven't, fucking gone and seen. And I intend to fucking go back and see it all. I'm waiting for Master Mode. I really need Master Mode to come out. But anyway, regardless, yeah. So and I mean, it was good. I think it's good to get all that perspective lore and stuff like that. I still got to pick it up in the 12 tablet side quest type thing where you got to go take a picture of all of them, take it back to a guy who translates it.
So do I. I've still got plenty of content and side quests to do.
Yes,
There's no doubt about that.
Oh, it's a huge game. Never gonna get it done. Never gonna get it done
Yeah,
the way
no.
I'm going.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I really gotta fucking open back up and make it. God, I'm gonna do it today. You know what? I'm gonna open and play.
All right. Look out.
Talking about it, man. Talking about it does it. But anyway,
Yeah.
And then the last wrap up.
Oh, we've got to talk about. I've been waiting to talk about this forever. So
Yeah, I figured we would do it near the end of the show because it is like it's a huge box to unwrap of a lot of feelings.
Mm-hmm. It's like I've mentioned this to you in the past, but like this is the spoiler. This is like the thing where it's like, all right, I'm gonna talk about just talk about temples or whatever. Like it doesn't really matter, I feel, until you actually play it. But like that story spoiler is what we care about. So where we are just like sort of talking about the temples now. You finished the 5, and it says like, look, you got to locate the Master Sword. And there's like multiple ways you can locate the Master Sword. 3 different ways, I think.
Yes.
One's by going to the Deco Tree and sort of helping them with his problems, getting rid of Phantom Ganon out of his guts.
Let's talk about that real quick. Gloom hands. Holy shit, gloom hands.
Of course, yeah.
Fucking like of all the enemies in this game, of which there are many, and there's a bunch of new ones like Redeads and stuff like that coming back and all that, and that's all fine with dandy. But I don't think any of them laid as much of a groundwork as Gloom Hands. I think Gloom Hands and Phantom Ganon. Sorry, they fucking hurt my head.
The glasses.
Yeah, because they're being squeezed by the headphones.
Right. Can you still see me?
Yeah, I can still see you.
Oh, thank God for that.
Yeah, it's just I probably shouldn't have them off for too long because they give me a headache. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's all right. It's gonna be fine for like the next 15 to 20 minutes, whatever.
Is that all? Is that how long it takes to get a headache without your glasses on?
Yeah, well, everything's blurry, man. It's not.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean?
Oh, well.
Sometimes I can be without them for a couple of hours, but
You can take the headphones off if that works for you.
I could, but I like hearing your voice.
You'd like hear me right in your earlobes.
Right there, exactly.
Like the listeners.
Exactly.
Just embrace the voice.
Mm.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I like it too, to be honest.
Could just wear my glasses really weird and just like sit them above the cuffs.
No, you gotta do whatever you gotta do, mate.
You just laugh. But anyway, yeah, so Gloom Hands and like finding your way into the forest was crazy enough. It was like, how the fuck do I get in there? No matter where I go, I can't get in.
Can't go through it. Can't go over it.
You have to go under it. And you get in there and then you're just like, holy shit, this place is depressing. It's like, oh, what the fuck happened?
Mm.
And then you go into the Deku Tree. It's like, oh shit, there's a giant pit in the Deku Tree. You drop down there and it's fucking Gloom Hands. Now, if you were like me, I don't know about you, was not the first place I encountered Gloom Hands.
No.
But it is by far the most lethal. It's the most lethal place to encounter.
Yeah, it's a pretty small area.
It's a fucking tiny area with no ways to hide.
Mm.
First time I encountered this enemy was in the labyrinths. And a lot of people were like, oh, they're floor masters. And that's essentially what they are, like to a degree. You know, they'd be grabby hands that like to get their hands all over Link. They don't want him to live.
I hope they do a mod where they just make the sound like, come here, Link. Oh, let me grab you. Oh, let me have a touch.
Let me get you my little fingers.
Let me just put a pinky finger on you. Oh, yeah. You feel so smooth, Link. Oh.
Like a baby's bottom.
Oh,
So this was like fucking terrifying. Coming across one of those things is fucking terrifying. You don't feel like you can escape them. And you can't really, like sometimes you're just like, how the fuck do I beat this? And like, as time's gone on, a lot of people have realized it's like, you can literally just fucking like flurry rush them, or, if you were anything like me, you just stocked up on bombs and just fucking shot them from afar.
Yeah, I'm like fucking just like turning around in the flurry, like fuck.
Yeah. You're like, I don't want to deal with this. But I think the biggest surprise to everyone was killing Gloomhands was not the end, and it would actually release Phantom Ganon.
Yeah. So I was like, oh fuck, when that happened.
You see Phantom Ganon so many times in this game because like not only is it like part of the Gloomhands fights, but like you have like your encounter in Hyrule Castle, which is a really cool sequence, by the way. I like that part of the game. It was sort of like a faux dungeon.
Yeah.
Coming across Gloomhands after and then like coming across them in the bottom of Deku Tree. I can't tell you how many times I died down there. So many times.
Yeah, I think I didn't die. I think at this point I had a good amount of hearts, so I was a little bit more prepared. But
I just dropped down there and I had bombs, man. I did not stop. No, you guys are dying now. Fuck this.
Yeah,
like I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah, because this is the first time I saw a Phantom Ganon, and I'm sure it probably is for most people. I assume. I don't know if it was for you.
No, again, I found him in a labyrinth, which had way more of an open space, was easier to deal with.
Right. Yep.
Yep, not so much down the bottom of the Deku Tree where it's only a tiny circle. Yeah, and that like obviously removing him from the equation, then you get stuck down there. And again, it's one of those situations like, well, how the fuck do we get back up again? Oh yeah, sent. Whoops. And then like you have a discussion with the Deku Tree, and obviously the Deku Tree is one of the ways you find out where the fucking sword is, because he's like, well, I can feel its presence, and then it like shows you on the map. It's like, well, here it is.
So yeah, you've got doing the geoglyphs.
Yep.
You've got locating it through saving the Deku Tree.
Yep.
Or finishing all the temples. Then it says, all right, now you need the Master Sword.
Yep.
And personally, like for you, what method did you come across the Master Sword?
Deku Tree.
Deku Tree, really?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Because for me it was doing the geoglyphs. And we'll move into like the big story moment, which is what Zelda's been cooking up all this time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But for me, it was about 3:00 in the morning, doing all of the geoglyphs, just getting them unlocked. making some progress. I'm like, look, I see like got half an hour left till 3:00 in the morning. It's like, look, I need to get to sleep because I'm gonna regret it the next day. I need at least some sleep. So I must have like got it just in time for like 3:00. Did the last memory. All right, cool. Put the game down. But then like the cutscene happens where like the light dragon just like bursts out from the side of the cliff, and I'm like, oh fuck, that's pretty cool. Because I hadn't seen the light dragon yet. I hadn't come across it or anything like that. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Then it unlocks a memory in the upper part of the map. So, oh well, I guess I'll do this before bed. I guess the journey's still going, because I can't just leave this one. So doing that. And that's when like the big reveal happened. Like Zelda sacrifices herself with the Master Sword to, help repair it over the 10,000 years until Link finds it again. And like this is a moment in probably my gaming career where I was just like so, just impressed and just blown back. Like I cried. I was like, holy fuck!
It was very sad.
I was like, it's sad, and it just shows that like the length. Obviously Zelda's character, the length, like, we know how important the Master Sword is, but a lot of the times, like, it's like in the games, oh, look, here it is. Thank God.
Yeah.
Like, 3/4 way through the story in most Zelda games. Oh, here it is. Thank God. But in this game, it's like, no, this is vital to, just saving the land of Hyrule. Like, this is the weapon you need. No matter how good you are, Link, you need this sword, and Zelda will sacrifice herself to get this sword to you no matter what.
Yeah.
So it was the next morning. I'm like, I was so excited to play the next day. I'm like, I'm going to the Light Dragon because I like sort of broke it up between days there. And like the moment, like, you fly onto her and you pick up the sword, and it was just such a magical moment. I think it's I don't think any game this year will beat that moment for me.
No.
If it does, like, I'm going to be so happy. But like if like Final Fantasy or the Star Wars game or anything like even comes close to like a moment in the story for me, that'll be amazing. I don't think it will because I'm just such a Nintendo fan. So I'm very invested in the Zelda story. But yeah, I thought it was just absolutely magical. And in hindsight, I was thinking to myself, like, I could have found this multiple ways, and I think all of the other ways would have lessened it in some way. Because if I, decided to do the Deku Tree, and I said, oh, look, the Master Sword's here, I would have just went, oh, great, I need the Master Sword. I need a better weapon. So I would have found her and just like pulled it and went, oh, shit.
Yep.
This is Zelda. Oh, fuck, all right. And that sort of lead up, like how I discovered it, was so important just to how it just resonated with me just so much.
Yep.
And I know some people as well, like, they're playing the game, and they just went to Google, where's the Master Sword? And in Breath of the Wild, I think people do that because in Breath of the Wild, it's like, oh, it's here. Oh, cool. Like, there isn't that much to it, really. But, like, Zelda took it back so it could recover. But apart from that, there wasn't, like, the big reveal necessarily that, like, a main character has made this sacrifice or et cetera, et cetera. So I'm happy I discovered it the way I did, but talk a bit about how you discovered it and maybe what happened before launch as well.
Yeah. So most people will know that the game got leaked 2 weeks before launch, and it was very playable on everything, like fucking everything.
Extremely playable.
It's extremely playable. So that was really sad because I got spoiled by a comment section with like 3 words or 4 words. Zelda is the dragon. And that was enough. Because I knew the Light Dragon existed. I knew it was there. I knew there was a thing.
See, I didn't. It was Light Dragon wasn't in Breath of the Wild, was it? No.
It wasn't. No. But I knew it was there.
Because I was thinking, like, was it one of them floating around? It's just
well, because in the previews, there was a dragon getting around. Like you could, like when they were doing like the showcases and stuff like that. Like the one that's like, I put a mushroom on my shield. It was in the distance and like it was in the trailers and stuff like that.
The actual Light Dragon.
Yeah, and a lot of people were like, that's not Dinral, Farosh, or Daedra.
Yeah, right. I never paid attention to that.
No, but like most people that did pay attention, they're like, that's none of those. That's a new dragon.
Thank God I didn't.
And then obviously it says Zelda is the dragon. I mean, Zelda is the dragon is enough of a spoiler anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, it's way like even if there was no Light Dragon, like it's already spoiled. So impactually, that did not affect how I felt about the actual outcome and what happened and stuff like that. Still made me very sad because obviously, despite the fact of me knowing that Zelda was a dragon, I didn't know what led up to that and what the consequences were and how that sort of came to be. So
it's like, why is she a dragon? That's strange.
Yeah, why the fuck is she a dragon? So but what really killed it for me actually was the first geoglyph memory I come across is the one where Minera said to become a dragon is to lose oneself. I'm like, okay, so she chose to do this.
It's just like, oh no, she lost herself. Oh no.
Anyway, so it was a little disappointing that I got spoiled on that and stuff like that or whatever. But going to the Deku Tree, I wouldn't call that the most disappointing thing in the world. It obviously wasn't as spectacle as, and it really does push you in the direction of going the geoglyph way first. So I think that is probably uber important. I feel like a lot of people were very interested in doing geoglyphs more than anything first off. But I wanted to get into Korok Forest because I'm like, why the fuck can't I get in here? Something's terribly wrong, right? And I got in there, like the Deku Tree is like fucking ill. Like he's on the verge. He's just like, holy shit, all the Koroks are depressed. I'm like,
oh man, I'm full of gloom. Fucking get it out of me, please.
God, I feel awful. Then I get down there, I go down or whatever, and then he's just like, Link. And then we have like a discussion. But the thing is like, the reason that doesn't affect me too much is because I have like a deep personal relationship with the character of the Deku Tree. Right? Like back in Ocarina of Time, like the Deku Tree was, me starting out my adventure in Zelda. And so like the Deku Tree will always, that's why I wanted to get in this so bad. Otherwise I wouldn't have fucking bothered because I'm like, I want to know what's wrong with the Deku Tree. You know what I mean? Because like in Ocarina of Time, it's the same thing. It's like, oh man, Link, I got a real bad bellyache, mate. And then you kill the bug inside him. And then he's just like, well, I'm dead now. It's like, no, that's my dad. And
it's rough, eh?
It is. As a kid, you're like, no. I was like, what have I done? And then like Mido makes you feel bad and shit. And he's like, how dare you fucking kill the Deku Tree? It's like, I didn't kill the Deku Tree. Goma did. But anyway, enough said on that. Basically, it was it was that to me. Do you know what I mean? So like, I have a personal relationship with the character of the Deku Tree.
Yeah.
It's always been like my childhood beginnings. So me coming across saving the Deku Tree, that was important to me, and then being like, I could still feel its presence, and then like going to the dragon, and it's like it's just like, holy shit. It's like, yeah, okay, here's the Master Sword. I already knew it was Zelda. Obviously, pulling out the sword, you find out it's Zelda anyway.
A bit of a cutscene happens.
Happens, and it sort of implies it, right? But I don't think that. I think that opens up a different portion, and this is why this game's story is so, like, it still feels a little disconnected at times when you think about it from the prospect of, like, Breath of the Wild, like how it was so disconnected and stuff like that. And sometimes because the way you can tackle the story is a little bit more, however you sort of come across it in Tears of the Kingdom, I feel like a lot of people still do feel like the game can be like that. But I think it does it in such a varied way across 3 different potential methods that it leaves you room, right? And I think it actually weaves out pretty well, because if you go the route I did and you go see the Deku Tree, you come out and then you go up there and you go remove the sword, and then it's just like, what the fuck? Zelda's the dragon? It's like, well, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, true. Like I was talking about me, like with Ganondorf, like, oh, I'll piece together how we got to this point of power. Yeah, true.
And then it's just like, well, fuck, I need to go finish the geoglyphs now. And then you get to the end of the geoglyphs and you realize how fucking tragic it was for her to be in that situation. And you're like, holy fuck. And now, obviously, I already knew Zelda was the dragon, so that was not a big spoiler for me when I got up there, but I really wanted to know. So it pushed me to the geoglyphs, and then I did the geoglyphs, and then it became even more of a tragic tale when I realized what had gone on. And I'm like, well, shit. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. I feel like it's more of a spectacle to do the geoglyphs first, and it pushes you in the direction that, hey, maybe you should go do these first. If you want like the optimal experience, I guess you would call it. But me going back and saving my tree dad and going and collecting the sword and then being like, well, how the fuck did it get to this situation? And then pushing me to do the geoglyphs. Like, even if I didn't know about Zelda at the time and then saw that, I'd just be like, oh, well, hold the fuck on. What the fuck happened? I feel like in the end, it wouldn't have changed how I felt about it. You know what I mean? And I think that's pretty magical when you think about it. There's not a lot of games that do something like that you can be like, oh, well, I guess I just spoiled it for myself. Like, it didn't feel like that. It felt like, well, shit. Now I need to know now I really need to know what happened. And I think it becomes more important to you in that moment that you know what happened. Like, don't fucking keep the truth from me. I need to know. And then you get to that section where the final tier is like in the Spiral Island or whatever, and then like you activate it, and then like you see exactly what happened, and then she flies past you, and all these silent princesses are blooming in the circle, and you're just like, well, holy fuck, this whole time, and like this whole thing, it's like it was all because she wanted to secure the future and make sure that you could succeed. And it was magical in that moment. And I think like all of those 3 things coming together, with Mineru and wanting to be there to make sure that this gets done because she lost so much already. And then Zelda holding on to literally 10,000 years in order to create an opportunity to fight this guy. And then everything coming back on like the Zonai research and how it was possible for not only these things to come together with Mineru using her power to extract her soul and embody it in another object, or Zelda being able to travel back in time and suffuse herself with the power to turn into a dragon, or anything like that, but not only just the good things, but the bad in how Ganondorf takes this power and makes it his own thing based on like stuff that the Zonai had brought upon Hyrule with good intentions that went wrong, right? all three of those things meld together and make like this nice little package, which no matter which way you tackle it, you are learning something, and it doesn't cross over each other so much that it's experienced a wrong way, which I think is really important. They managed to fix it up in such a way that there is an optimal way to do it, yes, still, but that's only probably, I would say, 10% better than the suboptimal way. Now, take what you will, obviously, with me in the Deku Tree, made that really important to me.
Yeah.
Because he was my dad. He was my tree dad. And I fucking...
Sudowoodo is my tree dad. So.
Sudowoodo is your tree dad. But like, I found it really important. And then like culminating, and then like, this is like probably the final section we'll be talking about. You actually have to go to work. It is like past 12 already.
Look, I'm not too fussed.
I know you're not too fussed, but Karen, he might be. Anyway, so, but I mean, we're coming up on the end of it anyway, but like right into the end. And like, we've had Hyrule Castle up in the air this entire time. And obviously there's been like everybody at the landing has been like working together to this point to be ready to fight an army and take on anything that comes their way. Obviously, like it just, everybody's coming together since the start of this game, which is something that Breath of the Wild did very poorly. Characters did not really get that much screen time, let alone time with each other and stuff like that. But the side quests in this game and stuff like that, and the people interacting with each other at the landing and stuff like that, it all feels nice and community-like.
Yeah, a bit more like cohesive, yeah.
Yeah, like everybody's working together towards a goal rather than just being, we're all citizens of Hyrule and we've just lived with this for 100 years.
So fuck, I guess it's life.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not like that anymore. They actually want to fight against this. And then, you drop down in that chasm, right? You suspect that it's got something to do with the end, the entire game. Like, you don't think Ganondorf's just like a fucking Timbuktu.
Yeah, I just want to say before we get to like the end boss, I think you put it beautifully, just like how this game you're able to play at your own pace, your own order, all of that, and it's just like your own story that you got out of the game through going to the Deku Tree and having him point you towards Zelda rather than like what I did, whereas it's like I basically found it myself, pieced it together myself, and we've all got like these different stories we can tell that not just like. I got a rock and I flinged it up here and I made this mech and I did this. Like you can do that, but the actual story itself, like it means something different to you, how you piece it together. Mm-hmm. I think it's awesome, and like even like what territory you decide to go to first, and it all just works together so well. And like the more you think about it, it's like, wow, this game's even more impressive than I might have even thought it was, and I thought it was extremely impressive before, but. Just like with everything that's going on, from the story, how it's all sort of able to do in any order, to how you're able to make things with Ultra Hand. Yeah. The character interactions, everything. It's just so much, and this is on Switch.
Yeah, that's right.
And like, I don't know any games that came out the last 5 years that are doing something like this.
But that's the thing. Like we've been talking about Tears of the Kingdom specifically for an hour and 40 minutes, right? The first 30 minutes was just us gas bagging and being whatever. I feel like this could be a solely 5-hour conversation on Tears of the Kingdom. I think there's like a lot that we haven't covered that
there's heaps, yeah.
We could talk about, like we talk about like the Gleeok fights and the individual dungeons and like the arcs that you have to go through to get to that point and stuff like that. But even though it's a spoiler cast, I feel like the journey itself is unique to each and every individual person because you choose your direction on where to go and stuff like that. And I don't think, like, if there are people listening to this spoiler cast and they're here because they're like, I want to hear them talk and I don't really give a shit about spoilers. Like, I still don't want to push them in a direction to go a certain way, in a sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think people need to pick their own direction with this game. And I think that's like the most important thing. So if you are listening to this and you are listening to this knowing full well that you're going to get spoilers, but you still intend on playing the game, please just, pick your own direction.
I hope they didn't.
You never know, right? But there are people that actually don't care and they just want to play the game.
It's funny because I've listened to a few spoiler casts before like playing or finishing the game. because I'm not that fussed about it. And honestly, the ones I've done that with, I've had no context, so I've had no idea what they're on about, so nothing got spoiled anyway.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, like, and I mean, I think we've been in a bit more detail here, but if you are, listening again, if you are listening,
if you're not,
well, then you don't have to worry about it. But if you are listening and you need, and you want to, sort of experience the game in its purest form, outside of telling us us telling you literally what happens, just pick a direction and go. Don't fucking act like there's a proper way to do things or anything like that, because there really isn't. And like Breath of the Wild was the same. There isn't really a proper way to do things. It's just Breath of the Wild did not do it as cohesively as this game has done. But I also think they had way more time to plan out this game than they did Breath of the Wild. So that sort of tells you enough. If it didn't land as well as it did, I think people would be extremely mad. Yeah.
Yeah. So going into the final sequence, because this is something to talk about just in itself. But what part of the game are you like, all right, I'm confident enough, I feel like I've done enough to like decide to wrap up the credits and like go and find Ganondorf? Because for me, it was I got plenty of hearts. I did about 132 shrines, so I got 20 left to do. And a lot of it was like upgrading my gear, make sure that was good enough. I cooked a bunch of stuff, make sure I could heal myself, which turned out to be useless anyway because the gloom just restricted my hearts anyway. So I'm like, well, I didn't make any recipes for that, so I was maybe underprepared for that aspect of it. But about 75 hours in, I'm like, all right, I want to see what's going on, because I haven't met Ganondorf yet. He seems like a nice guy. Shake hands.
What a strapping young lad.
Rub elbows. There you go, mate. Well, I've heard a lot about you.
See, I'd finished the entire underground. I'd unlocked the Great Fairies and stuff like that. I did about 100 shrines. And I got all the story stuff done, except for, the minor side story stuff. So like the Zonai tablets and stuff.
Yeah.
And then that's when I went down there. So obviously fighting the Dark Army and stuff like that. And then I didn't have to worry about the sub bosses or anything like that.
Yeah.
Going down there, right, and like getting through the gauntlet of enemies and stuff like that was like more of a rush fest. I'm like, I don't want to use my food that I've stored
that's
up.
right. Yeah, I was the same. Like, I just want to sort of like run away from you and skip it.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't think that's an invalid way to do it. I think just like anything else, it's like, I need to get down there. So you get down there, right, and you end up in the same corridors that and there was a few details that I asked you if you picked up on. One specifically that was really important, but when you get down there, you get down to the cave where there was that wall blocking off like right at the start of the game, and you can finally blow it up and see what's behind it.
Oh, how awesome is that?
It was there the entire time.
Yeah, it's just like blocked. Like it shows like
exactly what the fuck happened.
Yeah, Zelda, what she did when she went back to ancient Hyrule, and that was on the walls like from the very start of the game. It's just blocked. And it would have been interesting. I wonder if I don't know if you did, but when you're watching that starting cutscene, were you like, you can blow up those walls? Like,
yes, yeah.
Were you thinking that? Because I don't think I was. I wasn't like, oh look, there's some story blocked off here.
No, I was definitely like, that is definitely made to be blown up. I'm like, they're hiding some shit behind there.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what that shit was going to be.
Yeah.
So like traveling through those corridors again after the 100-hour mark, I was just like, fuck, like this is it, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It felt way more different than rocking up to Hyrule Castle and being like, whatever, because it is just the deepest, dankest parts of the world. And you're just like, this is it. Yeah. Like, this is where we got fucked up. Are we really, truly prepared for this? And then you drop into like the second to last chasm. And it was actually just the chamber, like the hole from where the chamber was. And you didn't notice it.
No, I didn't know.
But down at the...
I was too busy running away from shit, so I think I just ran past it. Yeah.
Oh, no. So this wasn't running away from shit. This was...
I think I was still running, though.
So it was just past the murals, and you get into the chamber where he was sealed, and then you drop down. And at the bottom of... at the ground, down the bottom, was actually Zelda's torch that she had dropped.
Very cool detail,
at the start, which was a fucking really cool detail, because it just shows that, like, that's how deep down she was falling before she got transported out, and like Yeah, that's where the torch was. That's where it ended up. So there's a torch all the way at the bottom. And then you go down a little bit further, and then obviously you drop into this, and then it's just like this dark pit with like lots of glowing red.
Dark Pit, great Kid Icarus character.
Yeah, dark pit, great. I knew exactly where you're going as soon as you fucking open your mouth. Anyway, and then you get down, and then obviously like you've got to fight with an army, which was a fucking really cool detail, especially when you had all your friends in tow. I think the sages in this game were really important. From the prospect of like there were a lot of the characterization, but then they weren't just lone units like in Ocarina of Time where like you'd unlock them and it's like, oh yeah, they're kind of just hanging out in the chamber together. No, these guys they're there for you and they're interacting with each other in some way or another, and they're all together, similar to how the champions did in a couple of cutscenes in Breath of the Wild, but on probably a grander scale, I would say. And them coming down to fight with you in that instance was awesome.
Yeah.
And the fact that like...
You're like, how the fuck did you guys get here?
Exactly. Like, how the fuck did you get down here? And they're like, we've always got your back. We told you would be here. So obviously what had happened, like, because at some point the game tells you, it's like you can no longer feel the connection to the sages.
Yeah.
Right? It actually tells you the further you get down, it goes, you can no longer feel the connection to the sages. So obviously they're like, we can't feel your connection either. Shit, is it time? And they're like, where's the last location we felt him? And then they've just followed you all the way down there because they know you're there.
It's like when you lose your drone. Like, when was the last GPS coordinate?
Exactly. Where's my iPhone?
Yeah, where's my iPhone? Yeah, it's about here.
Find my iPhone. Here he is. And then getting down there, and then like, you know, in Breath of the Wild, it's like, oh hey, look, if you've beaten the blights, well, they're not going to show up here. But like here, it's like the bosses are still reincarnated. They're still here. Like obviously the fucking magic is that powerful that he doesn't give a shit. He'll just resurrect the bosses and fucking, you know, sit there. So you beat the Dark Army, and then it's just like...
So yeah, when you beat the Dark Army, it like brings up the bosses. I'm like, fuck no.
Yeah, but no, they hold them off.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. And it feels good, and it makes it feel like you know, finding those sages and stuff like that had a bit more of a purpose than just aiming a laser at a ball sack on the roof. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Felt a bit more impactful because in the moment it was just like, holy shit, they're here to help. And yeah, and then obviously you got that slow little jaunt towards Ganondorf in that passage. And you rock up into his chamber, which
That little jaunt.
And you rock up into his chamber, and he's still nicely dehydrated. He's been fucking...
Oh no, he's dry as fuck. Why did he just decide to rehydrate then?
I don't know. He just moisturized himself.
He's like, well, I guess we're better now. Like, I was sort of enjoying this form. It's a bit lighter. It's a bit more limble. But
I think the intent was he was putting all his power into
fucking shit up elsewhere.
Yeah. And especially when it comes to Puppet Ganon, aka the Zelda that was running around.
That's an aspect we haven't talked about. Just purely because I knew when I was doing all those things, like, oh look, I saw Zelda. It's like, no, you fucking didn't.
Yeah, that's definitely, yeah. Especially when you looked at the geoglyphs, it's just like, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But like Puppet Ganon, I think probably took a lot of resources for somebody who's just recently woken up. So
No, he's still a bit hazy.
He's still a bit hazy.
Oh god,
Then he's got those gloom hands everywhere, fucking spitting out clones of himself.
He's there with a coffee, just like, oh god, I'm trying to wake up a bit.
I like to think in that moment, basically, like every resource that he had put out into the world, when you rock up into the chamber, he just brought back to himself, and you know, obviously, made himself a big beefy man again, and
Big beef boy.
what a fun fight! I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a really good Ganon fight.
When it starts off and like the music's just like barely there. It's just like very much just sort of focusing on like a one-on-one duel with Ganondorf, and like there's some of like the most like epic moments from the Legend of Zelda series, like whether it's you know, Twilight Princess or Wind Waker or obviously Ocarina of Time. Like it's just it was really cool. Like, you know, start off like, all right, this is it. And by the time I was at this point, the gloom had already... I went in with so many hearts. I was so confident. I'm like, yeah, look, I've gotten pretty good at the game. But
Doesn't just break your hearts now.
the gloom consumed all of my hearts except for 4. And I'm like, oh. So I lost a couple of times to like his second form. I'm like, fuck, I need to just go and heal up. I couldn't. I'm like, I'm here for the long haul.
Yeah.
So like in hindsight, when I beat the boss, I'm like, it wasn't that hard, especially once you knew what was happening, what you could do, and all that. But
especially after realizing, like, fucking literally a month and a half down the line, some of the attacks were deflectable with the Master Sword.
Yeah, there's that too.
Like, excuse me.
But like sort of learning the patterns and everything with only 4 hearts, I was just like leaning into the TV, just like really focusing, like trying to work it out. So I went in with nowhere near as prepared as what I thought I would be, because I saw other people do it with less hearts than I had, but more hearts than the gloom had consumed. And like it looked, kind of simple, really. But yeah, no, it's pretty tricky for me going into it. So I died a fair few times trying to take down the boss. But like the first phase is really cool. He's just like playing with you, testing you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Essentially, and you take him down a bit, he goes into his second form, and his health bar just goes.
I love
just keeps going. I'm like, oh fuck!
I love the way that they made Ganondorf feel powerful by breaking barriers. So that health bar when he transforms into fucking Demon King mode, and he just it keeps going.
Yeah,
and then fighting him and you're flurry rushing him, but then he's flurry rushing you immediately back and stuff like that.
I'm like, oh shit, he's using my tricks.
Yeah, he's literally breaking conventions of the game to fight you. And I think like that felt really special in its own right, because a lot of people missed the opportunity for a Ganondorf in Breath of the Wild. They're like, where the fuck is he?
Where is he?
Like, we haven't had Ganondorf since fucking like Twilight Princess, but
we know now. He's down there. Go find him.
Yeah. Exactly. So
yeah, because Twilight Princess, my god, that end
it was really good.
Was Puppet Zelda into on
Dark Beast. Dark Beast Ganon in that game was incredible.
Oh my god, yeah.
Fucking literally portals, and then that music dropping in when he fucking runs in and comes back through the portal and tries to run through you and shit like that in Twilight Princess.
Yes. If then there's the end duel where you stab him through the guts. It's like, oh Christ, it was
magical. Magical.
And this game's on that tier too. It was just obviously there's the duel, which was just fantastic, a lot of fun, doing a lot, kicked my ass a lot. And I finally, do you want to talk a bit more about the duel before we go into the last phase of the boss?
Yeah, if you want to.
I'm not. I think I've said what I need to say.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I suppose I haven't really talked much about it either. No. So I didn't find the duel overly complicated, but he fucking hit me a lot, and I think a lot of people trivialize it now. It's actually not really that hard if you use some auto build shit.
Oh yeah.
But as a fight, when you're going in there nice and raw, and you want to find him. When I realized he was hitting me and he was consuming my hearts, he wasn't just breaking them, he was consuming them. I was like, oh fuck. Jesus Christ. All right, I don't have room to constantly get hit here. I have to maintain it, otherwise he is just literally going to suck away on my health. And the breaking conventions and stuff like that, it gave this Ganondorf a real air of power, which in previous games, they tried to make him thinking of duels with Ganondorf specifically, in Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, Ocarina of Time. So your duel in Ocarina of Time, not really much of a duel. It's more of a tennis match.
Yeah.
He's kind of a letdown in Ocarina of Time, to be honest. He's not that fun of a fight. In fact, I think realistically, Ganondorf and Ganon in Ocarina of Time is probably one of the weaker ones.
Yeah,
and it's one of my favorite Zelda games. So I say it in earnest because I love Ocarina of Time. I think it's one of the best easily. But it is what it is. In Twilight Princess, I think it's pretty straightforward. If you want to count Skyward Swords with Demise, I think that is an epic duel. I think that's fucking crazy. I love Skyward Swords fight.
Wicked, yeah.
It's a really good fight. Wind Waker's is also pretty good. I really like Wind Waker's as well. But all of them have this sword fight duel aspect that, except for Ocarina's, because Ocarina is a fucking tennis match. But those other three, they're all duels, and they all feel like swordsman duels, right? Like it is supposed to feel like that epic showdown. But I think with this fight, it brings that epic swordsman duel, adds its own little slice on it with Ganondorf being more of a samurai style type fighter now. But then also he's breaking conventions in ways that like you have been restricted throughout the game. Obviously, like you got, it's like, yes, every boss has the same look and health bar. They definitely have like different values of health, that's for sure. But no, it's just like, not only does he have a crazy amount of health just in the one health bar, but he just off the fucking planet. And breaking those conventions make him feel like a more powerful Ganondorf, just as it does in the beginning when he fucking saps away everything from you. It makes him feel like a very powerful enemy just by doing that, even though it's not actually doing all that much. It is literally just, you always knew you were going to start off with 3 hearts. Don't fucking kid yourself.
Yeah.
But
you got to do something in the game.
But yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. But like seeing that drop just made him feel all that more powerful. And they do that a lot in this fight. They do that a lot to make him feel a lot more powerful in this duel. So I've seen both outcomes of like, you know, not having sages and then having sages in this fight. And then obviously there's like a little bit of a resting point mid-fight, which was kind of a surprise because like we all thought, oh, hey, well, they're holding off the bosses the whole time. Then probably, but no, like they actually beat the bosses. They know how to deal with them. They beat them all. And they actually come and assist you in the Ganon fight during the phase where there's a bunch of phantoms. And then they help hold off the phantoms while you're still fighting Ganon. Now, obviously, that's not always the case, and you can have a couple of phantoms on your ass at the same time because they're assholes. But
they're not nice men.
No, they're not.
Sure.
They're not. But they actually jump in and help with the phantoms. Now, if you don't have them in that instance, you've not only got to fight like 7 fucking phantoms, you've also got to fight Ganondorf at the same time. It's a big deal. So I thought that was also pretty neat that they also had a main hand in the Ganondorf fight, which is not something that any, except for Zelda in Wind Waker, is the only other character that's had a hand in fight with Ganondorf. So I thought that was super neat. I thought that was awesome. And by a hand, I mean like an active hand, not just like Zelda in Ocarina of Time being like, now hit him with your sword, Link. Yeah, like firing light arrows at him is what she does. So in this similar situation, it was great to see them actually being involved in it. And then him getting mad to the point where he's like, he's in a desperation attempt. And then obviously he swallows the stone.
Yeah, so it's funny because like personally for me when I was playing this game, how I felt about like taking down his health to he's like, oh look, I've got to retreat to this drastic measure to make sure I fuck you up, even if I fuck myself up in the process. I was like, he didn't seem that hurt. He was like, I feel like he could have just gotten his knees and went, brushed it off and kept getting me because I was on my heels like, holy shit, because I had like no health. I'm trying to get to him. And he's like, all right, now I've got to do this drastic measure to take it down. It's like, I don't think, personally, in our fight, you didn't. But I don't know how you felt in your game. Like, were you like just taking him down? And you're like, you're fucked, mate. And he's like, all right, I have to do this.
I think he was equal parts. I think when it come down to the diving point of it, I think it was equal parts desperation as it was frustration. I don't think he was desperate to the point of like, I'm not going to be able to continue fighting you.
Just frustrated in the fact like
he's been sitting there for 10,000 years and he just wants you dead.
Yeah, it's like he thought it's going to be a lot easier.
Yeah, he thought he would stomp all over you.
Yeah,
and he thought he was going to fucking take Hyrule with an iron fist like immediately. But
not the case.
No, he got to the point where he's just like, if this goes on any longer, then it could go either side. Like it could flip either way. But I am genuinely just so angry that this did not go the way I wanted it to. And I think he had regrets in that moment too, where he's just like, I should have just fucking killed the boy. Do you know what I mean? Because he had a opportunity. He just sat there and mocked you.
Oh, easily, yeah.
He's just like,
could have taken 3 more hearts.
You can do, and you're like, no, I just you gotta let me get my hearts back, man.
We've got a few puzzles to do. I'll be back.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And because he underestimated him, I think it was even more frustrating when he come back and got his ass. He was getting his ass handed to him because he was cocky during the fight. He's literally like egging you on, and you're like, All right.
Yeah, well, I guess I will.
And then
I'll go and get you.
Then he resorted to the desperate measure. But I think his
no, that's a great perspective to have. Yeah.
I think because of that, he didn't really care as long as he got what he wanted in the end. So he was more than happy to turn into a dragon and just fuck the entire world up because that's all he cared about at that point. And like that was the thematic in Breath of the Wild as well. It's like he just does not care anymore. He just wants the world to burn. And I think like Ganondorf is the same in this prospect. He's been there for 10,000 years. He just wants the world to burn. He doesn't care if it's him or if he's a fucking dragon. He doesn't give a shit. He wants to see Hyrule burn to the ground because he feels like he's personally been done wrong.
Mm.
So, and then like obviously transformation happens and then it becomes a whole nother thing.
Oh, that was a moment like, for me, like, the cutscene's happening as, he's taking it out of the castle into the sky. I'm like, if Zelda comes and this is like a fight sequence between like dragons and it's in the sky, like that is I was just so hoping for that. And obviously that happens. Zelda comes like flying in and, she takes you high and you glide onto like Ganondorf's back in dragon form. I was like, fuck. Like I stood up. I stood up off the couch and I was just holding the controller, playing the sequence. I was like, this is one of the best sequences I've ever played.
The skies above Hyrule. Like you can see everything.
Just what's happening. And I was also very relieved because then I could heal my hearts because I was no longer in the gloom. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
I got back to 35 hearts. I'm like, oh, man, fuck. I'm like, oh my God. Instead of just like struggling on 4.
Yeah, exactly.
For like, I don't know, however many tries I tried. But yeah, that sequence, man, like that was just an amazing way to also like, show another form, like another dragon, as well as just like completely changing up the battle. So something that's never happened in the Legend of Zelda series. We've never had a sequence like that where it's like, it's so grand. We've had it where it's like, all right, this is do or die in a lot of Zelda games with Ganon or Ganondorf, but this was like a completely different form. And just the way it played out with how the music swirled as you're doing different things, how it all linked up. And, what you're doing is, pretty basic. Like, look, you got to hit the glowing parts on his back. That's something that we've done in a lot of the Zelda games, hit glowing things. Yep. But
or eyes.
or eyes or whatever it is. There's always it's like, why does this creature have a big blob on its back? Oh, I guess it's to kill it.
Guess we better hit the pimple.
That's I guess we're going to kill it, and then evolution's going to eventually make ones without that big pimple on its back. But until then,
you'd want to hope.
Until then, it's dead. But yeah, I was just so blown back with this boss battle. I thought it was, when Zelda rocked up, I was like, oh my God, like I started welling up, and I stood up, and
for those of you
amazing.
The boss rush, like right to the end, like this is where you pick up your Master Sword, and it's just it's a whole thing. It's just, is it the exact same cutscene? I don't think it's the exact same cutscene. You just pull the sword out.
Yeah, it's the same cutscene of you pulling the sword.
Yeah, but you don't get the memory part of it.
No. Which, like, I wonder how many people like actually didn't do any of that content, and then like just got the Master Sword at like, the very end.
Yeah. Who knows?
That'd be an interesting way to play the game. Like, oh, that's Zelda. Oh, cool. Let's get her. Let's get Ganondorf.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then fucking driving at home, just taking those dives, smacking out those eyes, and then getting down to the secret stone on his head, and finally just cracking at that and smashing it, and then just the huge explosion that this man turns into.
Oh, just a nuclear bomb.
It's like a fucking nuclear bomb. But what comes after it is probably the thing that really drove it home. It could have ended like completely differently in such a neutral way, but it ended in a way that felt really good.
Yeah.
Right. So you finish it off. The big explosion happens or whatever. Link's falling from the sky. He's waking up, and then he like Zelda's also falling, obviously in a much deeper sleep before. After having a small cutscene with Rauru and Sonia restoring her humanity and turning her back from dragon to human, obviously. And you're falling, you wake up, you see her, and the first instinct is to continue and keep falling and try to catch her. The one thing you couldn't do in the beginning of the game, you missed.
Yeah.
Now is your time to catch her. You
It's
need
like
to fucking catch
it's
her.
like Spider-Man all over again. It's like
yeah. It's all right. Spider-Man 2. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, you have to like, it's like now's your chance to make up for that catch you didn't make at the start. And you're diving, the whole world is around you. You see everything in the distance. And you reach out and you go for that catch, press A, done. Then you make a fall back down into Hyrule and land in a lake and thankfully don't fucking die. In fact, I think it actually is the same puddle that you fell in at the start of the game as well to get down to Hyrule. I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, it might be too.
I'm actually pretty sure it is.
Isn't that poetic?
It's very poetic.
Jesus Christ.
It's very poetic from beginning to end. The Ouroboros that's in the game's title, very representative of many points in the game, and that is one of them. It's like that's the exact sequences that have happened in the game from the beginning, and they happen in the same way at the end, very poetically. And then, obviously it represents like Ganondorf and his return and like how it cycles over and over again. Again, very poetic, stuff like that. Ouroboros represents it. It's why they put it in the title, because it is like there is a lot of things that loop back around to like situations that were before that this time you can correct. It's not, obviously the same situation, but it is now. So yeah, I think it was sort of like in that moment, like I got very emotional about it, because like over the 100 hours that I played that week, like I feel like I went through so much, like a crazy amount of content, a story that I was adoring, a more of a game that I loved. Like I loved Breath of the Wild to death, and I played it so much. And it was the same with this game. Everything about it felt, new, reinvigorated, and culminating all the way to that moment from when I started, and I was so excited, to getting the same thing, but this time Link actually succeeds, catches her, and falling into that little lake. Yeah, it felt magical. It was definitely one of those things that connected back around and made me feel after that 100-hour journey.
Yeah, no, it's just one of the best stories I've ever experienced. Just full stop. I don't know. I do think to myself, like someone who's just playing their first Legend of Zelda game, or someone who's not invested in the lore and that, like, is it as good for them? Like, is it such a good story that it works for everyone? I'm not quite sure necessarily, but for me, who just like loves that world and lore, it was just immaculate. Like I've been waiting for a chance to actually sit down and talk to someone about it, because usually it's just like you just tap your nose like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, and that's sort of all it was. But just with what happens here, the stakes of everything, just thinking about like Zelda's sacrifice, how she's been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, just waiting for you, and it's just a really special game.
Yes,
just super special. I think it's probably Nintendo's best game they've ever made.
Yeah, I'd probably argue to say. Yeah, there's a lot of people that would throw it out there and sort of like feel differently about it, I guess. But in terms of an actual game that Nintendo's put out there, I personally do think it's probably one of the best titles they've ever released, and I'd argue to put it on like the top of my list. But even if it's not on the top of your list, there are things you have to admit about that game, and that it is the largest game they've ever created, without any question whatsoever. Yeah, it is the most multifaceted game they've ever created. There is so many directions you can go, and none of them is the wrong one. It is the most content rich in general. So, when you're walking places, there's typically something to do. I know that Breath of the Wild had a lot of its empty moments, but this game definitely does not have a lot of empty moments, because it gives you a lot of tools out the gate to make the world your oyster. And I think it is also by far just probably the most impressive technical aspect that they've made. And I mean, Breath of the Wild was before it as well, but this kind of just elevates it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of technical marvels in Nintendo's history and how that they've introduced things into game, you've got motion controls and stuff like that, and how they managed to make the Wii like a fun experience for everybody, or something like that, and how some developers took those games and like made them Wiimote compatible, and made them. Your camera's loving it today.
It is going off. Anyone looking on YouTube goes black.
Yeah. Anyway,
It's getting hot or what?
Probably.
Yeah.
But it's from beginning to end, like it just proves itself as something that they'll probably do again someday, right? But this is a cornerstone, much as the transition from 2D to 3D was in a lot of ways. This is a cornerstone for Nintendo games. Like this is proof that they can do way better when they put their mind, their budget, and their time to it. When we were talking at the start of the show, we talked about how there's been a lot of disappointments over the last few years with Nintendo that have really brought me down. But this game was a hugely renewed vigor in hopes that maybe Nintendo will make better strides to make more experiences like Tears of the Kingdom, because Tears of the Kingdom is something that I think everyone should have a decent crack at. I know that Zelda's not going to be for everyone, never will be. Just like there are heaps of games that won't be for everyone. I think that you're going to get a lot more value out of Tears of the Kingdom as a Zelda fan, for sure. And I think there are a lot of people out there who say they're Zelda fans and, they're like, it is not for me, and that's totally fine. But at the same time, like if you're only putting 10 to 20 hours in this game, you're doing it pretty wrong. Because 10 to 20 hours is not even scratching the surface of it. Now, that's not to say you are forced to sit there and spend 200 hours on this game. You can make this game as quick as you want, that's for sure. But if you're not even like getting through the first few dungeons or seeing the first few clips or trying out your auto build and stuff like that, there is a lot of things that you can dip your fingers into, and within 20 hours you're like, okay, well, I've tried a bit of everything. It's like I didn't enjoy it. It's like, yeah, but did you explore the extent of it as opposed to just testing the waters?
Yeah, I see some people that are overwhelmed and get stuck and have dropped the game.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, please, just like everything we talked about, like there's so much good there, please.
Just don't, yeah, if you ever get, like, and that's the thing, if you ever get stuck in this, you just move on. Don't give up because you can't do a particular thing. That's fine. Just like, all right, well, I guess I'll come back to it later. And there is a lot of times, like, as somebody who's experienced enough of Breath of the Wild and then moving into Tears of the Kingdom, there are still times where I was just like, all right, I'm obviously not doing this now. And then I've moved on because sometimes that is just necessary. You can't do anything about that. It is just necessary.
Yeah, that's the great thing about these open world games. No matter what game it is, at least you can just go, all right, I'll do something else. Whereas if you might be playing DMC or something, it's like, oh, can't beat this boss. But, you're on a track, and that's what you're doing at the moment, and that's what you have to do to keep progressing the game. So.
Yeah, that's right. You've got no choice.
So yeah, that's the benefit of the open world game. But of course, more choice adds more sort of like just options, like, and you get stuck, you get paralyzed just from trying to work out where to go, what to do.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
I get that. And like going into this game, I was very much like, oh God, like there's building and all this stuff. But it was so natural how they integrated it into the game. And that was really kind of surprising, because typically in games, I don't really want to be like building stuff and doing all this stuff. But in the game, it's just like, oh, well, I want to go up there and there's some fans in that here and I'll put them together and I'll take me up there. And it's such like a small part of the game that just integrated so well.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, I think we both like the game, Bryce.
Yeah, it's definitely a 10 out of 10, and like they'd have to try pretty hard to make sure that the next Zelda goes half as well.
Yeah. So this is what I want to end on. I don't want to go into this topic. This would be a big topic in itself. I'd love to have you back for that. But personally, for me, after playing this game, I would love a third game in this trilogy now. I wasn't necessarily that way from Breath of the Wild. I was like, I could get a brand new world, I could whatever, but it was a sequel. Oh, that's awesome. But now I would actually love to see a sequel to Tears of the Kingdom, have like a trilogy of games, like exploring the same Hyrule. And look, they would have to go balls to the wall and just reinvent it again. But I think we can expect that from this development team at this point.
Yeah.
The amount of this expertise and time and money they actually put into the game. And it shows that it works for Nintendo. They sold 10 million copies in 3 days. So, you know, they're like, yeah, cool, that works for us. We can do that.
No, see, when they were talking about it in the post, they did say that like the future of Zelda has undoubtedly changed to some degree.
Yeah, they're doing the open world stuff.
Like that's the thing. It is almost integral at this point. I think there is still a place for a traditional Zelda to some degree.
I agree. It's just whether it's in the 2D realm,
Traditional.
whether it's the 2D realm or just like a 3D game, but just smaller in scope and less budget.
Yeah,
I think I'd like to see that still.
Yeah,
I'll be happy for that.
I played Link's Awakening before Tears of the Kingdom came out, and I enjoyed my time.
It has a place the same way like 2D Mario has a place later this year with Mario Wonder.
Yeah, that's right.
I think because I would love to go back and play like, you know, a Link Between Worlds on 3DS. So that was awesome to get in between, you know, Skyward Sword and things like that. So I would love to see some more of that. But this is obviously where the money is, and it just depends on whether they want to spin up more teams to make those other types of Zelda games.
Yeah,
not quite sure. Maybe I always hope Grezzo is actually making a 2D Zelda game, but don't know.
Yeah, you
don't know what they're up to. Yeah,
no, you never know these days.
So I don't want to see more remakes. I'm kind of over the whole remake of like the 2D games, and I just want a new Zelda game. I don't want like the Oracle games to be remade necessarily.
Yeah,
you know, I want like a new experience because I'm quite happy going back to the Game Boy games when they come to Nintendo Switch Online.
I think there are some cases where I wouldn't mind remakes. Like for example, something that came up last week was Super Mario RPG, right? Something like that, like it blew my mind away, right? Now I would love to see like Minish Cap, for example, get something a little bit better for itself, because I think Minish Cap personally is my favorite 2D Zelda.
I think Minish Cap in particular for me, it's just so beautiful as it is.
I think it's beautiful too, but I would also like to see how it would adapt into a like a 3D-ish sort of scope. I think that would be really neat.
Modern 3D graphics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like to a 3D sort of scope. Minish Cap is an awesome game. But I do agree with the sentiment that I think, and I feel this way about a lot of series. I think we need to move forward and rather than looking backwards. Especially with like, and I have a very doomer mentality. I think we both have a very doomer mentality about Pokemon at the moment in looking forward on where that series is going. In how and I think a lot of people were clamoring for like Gen 4 remakes. And now people are way less.
Take it back.
There are a lot of people that are like, please don't make Gen 5 remakes. There are a lot of people that are just like that. And the reason they're like that is not because they don't want them, it's because they know that they're going to do them incorrectly. And I think that is the problem with like looking towards remakes these days, is because I think like with like Fire Red, Leaf Green, Pokemon, and like all that as well. Like I think games like that were phenomenal. They were great, but I don't think we're getting the same amount of quality as we want out of them these days. Do you know what I mean? You got a lot of people like making fan projects, like, oh look, I made Ocarina of Time and Unreal Engine 4. I'm like, yeah, that looks fucking beautiful, but Nintendo's never going to do it.
Yeah, I don't have any concerns with Zelda in that respect. I'd rather just something new when they're putting the effort and resources into it. But at the moment, we're getting nothing apart from the main show. So
I need to hear about Tears of the Kingdom DLC. I want Master Mode. I want Master Mode. Because of my time in Breath of the Wild, like I feel like I had a fairly decent, easier time with this game, and that's okay. But like I started playing Master Mode before playing Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm like, yeah, everything feels kind of a little bit lower level. So
you're a hardcore gamer.
Not a hardcore gamer. I'm just fucking playing a lot of Zelda.
I never even tried Master Mode. I'm like, the idea of enemies just like recharging their health and that, I'm like, no.
It was fun. Yeah, okay. Looking at it from a perspective, like it's no different to playing it normally. It's just you have to be more aware of your situations. At the end of the day, you put 20 hours into master mode, you're still going to be getting into that loop of like, all right, I'm getting stronger now, so I'm like actually struggling a lot less. But it does require you to be a bit more attentive about like leaving enemies alone for too long and stuff like that. Does that make sense?
Well, you come back here, don't you heal up your health?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you're in a Call of Duty game. You go and hide behind a tree or something to like just wait to re-heal your health.
Yeah.
Like, don't you bloody dare.
Nah.
Because you know in Call of Duty, you just take out the bullets and like, oh, I'm good.
Yeah, you lick the strawberry jam off your face.
Could you imagine like, third person, it's just a big tongue, the blood off his face. Yeah.
Anyway, that was Tears of the Kingdom.
That was Tears of the Kingdom. Bryce, I really do appreciate your time. You coming here. There's actually, I don't think I did tell you, but I think I said on the last episode when I recorded the show that I was going to get you on. And there's no one I'd rather talk about Zelda to. You're the person that got me into the series. I very much appreciate it.
Yeah,
and
Twilight Princess.
Yeah, and just like your knowledge, expertise, and your perspective were real fascinating to sit down and hear you talk about today. So
thanks, buddy.
Really, really enjoyed it, man.
I love me some Zelda.
I know you do.
I love it too.
Actually, I don't believe you. I think you're lying.
Yeah, as if talking about the Deku Tree being my dad wasn't enough of a hint.
Mm.
Didn't have a dad, so Deku Tree was the closest thing I got. Holy shit, that's dark.
It is pretty dark.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where to go from there. I was going to try and make a joke, but then I've got like something in the back of my brain which says, no, Drew, what could you possibly say that would be funny in that situation?
Oh, look, it wouldn't bother me. No, look, the camera's gone again.
And the camera's going out again. So that's a good hint to say au revoir, everyone. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Bryce, of course, you're still streaming. If people want to keep in touch with you, where can they find you?
Twitch.tv/Reverend Cross. And then if like I'm not there, I'll be here. I don't know, sometimes.
Okay, there you go.
Whatever that will be. Yeah, I don't know. We'll find something to talk about eventually.
Yeah, no, you're more than welcome here at the House of Mario. Come and have a sleepover again.
Yeah, mate. No, did you clean my room?
No, it still stinks.
For fuck's sake.
I'm sorry, man.
All right,
everybody.
Shit in the corner months ago.
Bryce, we're going to go and play some more Smash or something, but until then, the doors are closed.
Oh.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Well.